On the day of the naming ceremony, the mute little princess actually opened her mouth and called Daddy. In an instant, she captured the heart of her iceberg-like father. In her previous life, the girl was the last remaining human in the world, and also an S-rank hunter. And the great demon king, who caused the extinction of humanity, was precisely the man standing before her now. Even if she was the only person left in that world, she was determined to complete the mission of destroying the demon king, because her family had all died at his hands. After an intense battle, the girl accidentally knocked off the demon king's mask. Only then did she clearly see his face, and to her surprise, he turned out to be a former colleague of hers. No matter how beautiful the memories between them had been, they could not outweigh the hatred of having her dearest kin murdered. So before the demon king could even speak, the girl directly raised the sword in her hand and brought it down. Accompanied by the sound of the system notification, she successfully completed the mission to destroy the Demon King. And at that very moment, her entire body also collapsed to the ground. She wanted to summon the system to check her physical condition, but it kept showing an error message. After many attempts, the system finally responded again. A scan revealed that all the organs in her body were rapidly failing and could not recover on their own. For her, this result was actually a kind of release instead. After all, living on alone was just too painful. She could finally be reunited with her family. At this moment, the system suddenly began frantically asking whether she wanted to claim the mission completion reward. The girl was extremely annoyed by its incessant questioning. Out of curiosity, wondering what it could possibly do for someone on the verge of death, she tapped the accept button. As a result, the system started reporting errors again, and she finally could no longer hold on and collapsed. At the final moment of her life, she heard the system notification once more. Congratulations to the host for obtaining compensation authorization. As an extra reward for completing an SSS rank mission, the host will retain the abilities of her previous life, and her magic level will be raised to S+. You've got to be kidding me. She never expected that even in death she couldn't escape this damn system. And what does previous life mean? Just as the girl was full of confusion, she suddenly jolted awake. The system's familiar notification sounded in her ears. Congratulations to the host on a successful reincarnation. The girl fiddled with her tiny little hands. She had actually been reincarnated, but this body was way too small, wasn't it? Besides, wasn't she supposed to be the only living person left in that world? If that was the case, who was going to take care of her? So furious that she cursed at the system pop-up window. Why on earth did it have to make her reincarnate as a nursing infant? But once she calmed down, she realized the environment here was far too clean and tidy. In her previous life, because of the Demon King's descent, everything everywhere had been wrecked and ruined, so this definitely wasn't her original world. That meant other people existed in this world. She just needed to call them out. So she immediately tried to cry out loudly for help, only to discover that she couldn't make any sound at all. This was just too unlucky. Fortunately, at that moment, a woman finally came in. She gently picked her up into her arms. "Your Highness, today is your naming ceremony. Are you nervous?" Saying this, the woman carried her to the banquet hall. Seeing the room full of people, the woman looked especially nervous. "Don't be afraid, Your Highness the princess." When the girl heard this form of address, she immediately filled in a fairy tale plot in her mind. She suddenly became full of anticipation for the future. But soon, the crowd's murmuring made her frustrated again. It turned out she was the rumored mute princess, and her development was particularly delayed. At this naming ceremony, if she couldn't make the sunstone shine, she might even be stripped of her status as princess. This situation was really not optimistic. At this moment, the woman lifted her up in front of a stone and had her place her hand on it. She said that this stone would glow when it encountered magic power. Half doubting, the girl reached out and touched it. The sunstone hanging in the air instantly burst into a dazzling light, and this signified that the girl possessed powerful magic within her. A blonde man approached, leading a group of priests. "Everyone listen. The princess has already proven her royal blood. From this moment on, I will bestow upon the princess the royal surname, Anatrigia Rustum. This will be the princess's name." The moment the girl saw the man, she became instantly excited. She immediately burst into tears and cried out, "Daddy." Strangely enough, the moment she saw her father, she suddenly found herself able to speak. The king, hearing his daughter speak for the first time, was completely dumbfounded. He could only helplessly take the girl into his arms. Seeing the little one show a sweet smile the instant she saw him made his heart unconsciously soften as well. The girl's abnormal performance at the naming ceremony aroused the interest of the iceberg-like king, and the reason she became so emotional upon seeing the king was because he and her father from her previous life looked as if they had been cast from the very same mold. It had been a full 13 years since her father died in battle. The moment she saw the king, The longing she had suppressed could no longer be contained. Perhaps this was what the system had meant by a reward, allowing her in this life to reconnect with her family from her previous one. To her surprise, it wasn't just her family from her past life. Even Uncle Yumming, who had no blood relation to her, appeared here as well. Uncle Yumming, as her father's comrade in arms, had more or less watched her grow up. He was essentially her second father. Back then, when uncle and father died in battle together, it broke the heart of her 12-year-old self. Now, to see them both alive again, standing before her, was truly wonderful. It was just that very soon, her father and uncle went off together to handle government affairs. Back in the nursemaid's arms again, the girl felt a little reluctant, but being able to reunite with them once more still made her incomparably happy. That said, because this body had not made a sound for so long, her pronunciation now was particularly strange when she spoke. She still had to find a chance to properly practice speaking. Just then, the nursemaid suddenly said excitedly, "Oh my, it's already time for the princess to eat. You have to wait here obediently for me." And so, the vast nursery was left with only her. The girl lay down and began to review everything that had happened today. The system window suddenly popped up. Reward claiming completed. But she didn't remember ever having claimed any reward. Just as she was about to tap the window to view the details, she discovered that her little hand simply couldn't reach the pop-up that high. So she decided to use a voice command to have the system open it. Who would have thought that, because her articulation was so unclear, she tried several times and the system still kept saying the command was invalid. So angry that she gave the system a spinning kick with her short little legs. This lousy system was targeting her on purpose, wasn't it? At that moment, a voice suddenly sounded by her ear. "What are you doing?" It startled the girl so much that she jolted. Lifting her eyes, she saw a face that looked strikingly similar to that of the king, her dad. "Is this my big brother?" The moment she saw her brother, the girl fell into memories. In her previous life, her brother was the family member who stayed with her until the very end. To block the Demon King's attack, her brother directly shoved her out of the way and took all the damage alone. His final words were to tell her to run. What a complete and utter fool. Thinking of this, her brother's face from her past life gradually overlapped with that of the silver-haired boy in front of her. The girl couldn't help but burst into loud sobs, which left the little boy completely dumbfounded on the spot. "Please don't cry, little sister." Just as her brother was racking his brains trying to make the girl stop crying, the girl suddenly grabbed a fistful of his hair and yanked him straight into the crib, then launched an attack of loving little fists on him, beating him until he howled non-stop. He really couldn't figure out what on earth he had done wrong, but the more he acted like that, the angrier the girl became. She grabbed his hair again and gave him another thorough beating. "You idiot! Who told you to leave me all alone? It's a good thing I can still be reunited with you in this life." The commotion quickly alarmed the maids. They rushed over and immediately scolded her brother. "Prince Lien, you must not bully the princess." Her brother was aggrieved to the extreme, but standing in the crib, he simply couldn't explain himself clearly. By the time he finally crawled out and pointed at the girl as the real culprit, the scene became unbearably awkward. The maids simply didn't believe that the little princess, who only knew how to drink milk, could do such things, leaving her brother so wronged that he was on the verge of tears. Seeing how deflated he looked, the girl almost wanted to laugh. So she simply took the initiative and dove into his arms, then quietly leaned up to his ear and threatened, "Let it go. If you keep pushing this, you're the one who'll suffer." Her brother clutched his ear, his face full of disbelief. He could not imagine that his 1-year-old little sister would actually threaten him. Even so, he still silently swallowed this grievance. After all, she was his little sister, and only he was allowed to spoil her. After several days of trying, the girl finally managed to open the system. The system immediately notified her. A mission has been completed. It turned out that last night's meeting with her brother had unknowingly completed the mission. Tame your brother. And it was completed almost the instant it was issued. That was just too absurd. Truly worthy of her. Just as she was about to claim the reward, the system actually started throwing errors again. She was really fed up with this awful system. It always broke down at critical moments, but the girl wasn't planning to give up so easily. After countless attempts, the system finally issued a compensation reward. Sure enough, whenever there was an error, it would do this, though she still felt inexplicably annoyed. Anyway, she might as well claim it first. To her surprise, claiming the compensation reward went unusually smoothly. The system directly granted her an S-rank skill stone. When the girl eagerly went to see what new skill she had obtained, she turned to stone on the spot the instant she saw the skill's name: Encouraging and Growing Bum Bum Smack. When used, it can activate or restore the target's magic circuits, with a limit of 5 uses. What kind of ridiculous skill was this supposed to be? But imagining using this move on Uncle Yumming, he would probably get so excited he'd hug her and rub his face against her like crazy. The thought alone was terrifying. She had better seal this skill away for now. After she closed the skill pop-up, a whole bunch of mission completion notifications popped up. These all seemed to be mission records from shortly after she was born. They were all things she was bound to experience as she grew up. So the system had actually wanted her to grow up properly. Could it be that in this life, the Demon King will descend again? But she quickly forced herself to stop overthinking. After all, she hadn't even met her mother yet. Thinking of the compensation reward just now, the girl started randomly tapping the system again, trying to click it into an error state. After some messing around, it finally threw another error, allowing the girl to obtain an E-rank item, Growth Potion. In her previous life, as an S-rank hunter, she wouldn't even have spared such an item a glance. But in this life, she particularly needed it. So the girl immediately gulped down the whole bottle in one go. Soon, she received a system notification. Growth value +1. And the potion's effect showed up the very next day, when they saw that the girl actually finished an entire bottle of milk so quickly. The maid sisters were overjoyed. Then they tried feeding her some solid food. Seeing her eat so nicely and obediently, they couldn't help but shed tears of excitement. They had failed hundreds of times before, and now she had finally eaten solid food. After this, her growth value increased by another +1. The girl began practicing standing, holding on to the crib rails. The nursemaid thought this might be a good opportunity to learn how to walk. So she immediately picked her up and started coaxing and luring her from in front. The girl cooperatively tried walking forward, step by step, though in the end, she still accidentally fell. Fortunately, there was a little V-shaped pillow, which kept her head from getting bumped. Even so, the maid sisters were already very satisfied because she had actually walked a full 5 steps all on her own. To commemorate the girl learning to walk, one of the maid sisters immediately made a mark on the floor, which made the girl feel extremely shy. The nursemaid picked the girl up with a gratified smile. If Her Majesty the Queen could see you like this, she would surely be very happy. After the nursemaid said this, sadness appeared on the maid sisters' faces. The girl also sensed that something was wrong. Come to think of it, since she was reborn, her mother hadn't come to see her even once. Even Uncle Yumming had already met her early on. Could it be that because her mother is the queen, she's just too busy? Looks like she has to find a chance to ask the person most likely to know the truth. So that day, when her brother came running over to see her, all excited, the girl put on a melancholy expression and kept calling for her mother. Who would have thought that, the moment her brother heard this, his face suddenly changed. He snapped aloud, "I don't know," then ran off while calling her an idiot. Seeing her brother act like that, the girl immediately had a bad premonition. Could it be that, in this life, her mother was already gone? She couldn't help but burst into wailing sobs. In her previous life, whenever she cried as a little girl, her mother would always tell her not to cry. She said a woman only cries 3 times in her life, so unless it's something truly heartbreaking, you mustn't shed tears easily. She remembered her mother's words and became a strong person. But if the very person who said those words no longer existed, what meaning did any of it have? In her previous life, it was her father who left first. In this life, has it become her mother? This damned system really wasn't going to let her live in peace. After that, she started losing her appetite. Her mood was always at rock bottom. This made the maid sisters terribly anxious. So they hurried to gather all kinds of toys, trying every method they could think of to cheer the girl up. But the results weren't very good. And the girl also knew things couldn't go on like this. The maid sisters were probably afraid she would turn back into the idiot princess. For her own sake, and for the maid sisters' sake, she had to pull herself together again. At last, she took the initiative to walk over to the toys and started to play. This made the nursemaid deeply relieved. But the moment the girl picked up the toys, she sensed something was off. These didn't seem like ordinary blocks, but magic stones. In her previous life, such things could only be obtained by killing monsters. She never expected them to be so common here. Seeing her quickly put all the blocks back where they belonged, the maid sisters excitedly praised her as a genius, and her adorable little appearance made people want to take a playful sniff of her. Their over-the-top reaction made the girl feel very embarrassed. Still, if her mother were here, she would probably like these magic stones too. Thinking of this, her mood instantly sank again. Seeing this, one of the maid sisters immediately picked her up. "Princess, let's go visit the prince together." The maid sisters took her to the training grounds, and they happened to witness the scene of her brother being bullied. Several ministers' children had surrounded her brother. They mocked him as a useless piece of trash with no mother and no magic. They ordered him to kneel to the Grand Duke's son and said that the Grand Duke's son would become the future king. Hearing this, The girl flew into a rage. That beansprout had actually dared treat her brother like this, and the attendants were just standing by watching coldly from the side. So furious that she shouted at the group of boys, "Get lost! Beansprout head, looking for a beating, are you?" As soon as she said this, she quickly drew the attention of the 3 boys. Seeing that the newcomer was her, the blonde boy tapped his own head and jeered, "Oh, so it's you, the idiot little princess. Have you gone crazy now?" But a useless prince and a shut-in princess really are a perfect match. Hearing this, the girl was so angry she just pointed at him, unable to get any words out for a long while. She was furious. She absolutely had to teach this little brat how to behave, but someone moved even faster than she did. Her brother grabbed the blonde boy by the collar. "You're not allowed to talk about my little sister like that." This action from her brother seemed to finally flip the attendants' switches. They rushed over in a panic, but not to protect her brother. Instead, they knelt to the blonde boy and begged for mercy. "Young Master Grand Duke, please forgive His Highness the Prince. He's still young and just got confused for a moment." With that, they even shoved her brother around, trying to make him apologize to the blonde boy. Seeing this, the blonde boy immediately puffed up with pride. "As long as you're willing to kneel and admit you were wrong, I'll reluctantly forgive you. I'll even allow you to keep living in this palace until you come of age." Hearing this, her brother suddenly bent his knees slightly, which made the girl frantic. How could her brother be so spineless? But in the next second, her brother suddenly rammed his head into the blonde boy's chin, sending him flying and landing flat on his back, limbs splayed. "You want me to apologize to a bastard like you? In your dreams. Get out of my house right now." The reason her brother had become so humble was that, as the Empire's only prince, he had failed to make the Sunstone shine on the day of his naming ceremony. And if the Sunstone didn't shine, it meant he had no magic. In an empire that worshipped strength, a person without magic was not worthy of becoming king, not even a noble prince. From then on, her brother was labeled the useless prince. No one cared about his feelings. Even when he proactively requested to study the arts of rulership, he was met with merciless ridicule from his teachers. Yet, even so, her brother never gave up on improving himself because he wanted to become the strongest support for his sister. So, if anyone dared bully his little sister, he would definitely strike back without mercy. Looking at the Grand Duke's son lying on the ground, half dead, her brother's gaze gradually turned icy, while the blonde boy's lackeys were scared out of their wits by what he'd done today, as if they had glimpsed the shadow of a cold, ruthless king in him. It was terrifying. Only the girl unabashedly gave her brother her full approval, which instantly softened her brother's heart. As expected, his little sister was still the best. To give her brother a bit of encouragement, the girl reached out her little hand, wanting to pat his head, but she awkwardly realized that she couldn't reach him at all. The nursemaid immediately held out her arms, indicating she could pick the girl up, but the girl stubbornly insisted that she could definitely do it herself. So her brother let her try again. Even though she strained on tiptoe with all her might, she still couldn't reach his head. She even accidentally fell over. At that point, she finally accepted defeat. She just hadn't expected that at only 7 years old, her brother was already this tall. Suddenly, her brother's head dipped down sharply. Then, he gently lifted the girl's small hand and placed it on top of his head. "How about now, can you reach?" Although she was a bit annoyed by her brother showing off like this, the girl still sweetly cheered him on and encouraged him. Just then, the unconscious blonde boy suddenly woke up. He first viciously berated her brother, that useless trash, for daring to make him get hurt. Then he turned and started punching and kicking his little lackeys. Finally, he still didn't forget to once again force her brother to kneel and beg him for mercy. But this time, they ignored the blonde boy, which made the blonde boy completely furious. He actually tried to use magic on the siblings, but the girl would not allow him to run wild here. She immediately cast a protective barrier around the nursemaid and the others. Then she also unleashed her own magic. Frightened, the blonde boy ignored everyone's attempts to stop him and directly hurled the fireball in his hand. Seeing that the girl was in danger, her brother, without hesitation, stepped in front of her, just like in their previous life. But this time, the girl refused to lose him again, so she immediately cast advanced magic, summoning a fire phoenix that swooped straight toward the blonde boy. The blonde boy was so terrified by the fire phoenix that he fell to the ground on his backside. Then, the next second, the fire phoenix began furiously pecking his head. In unbearable pain, he could only flee in panic, and while running, he discovered to his horror that he had actually wet his pants. His spotless reputation was now completely ruined, and there were so many witnesses. All of this was thanks to that brother and sister pair. So he immediately pointed at her brother and cursed, "I'm warning you, don't get too full of yourself. Even if you beat me, it doesn't change the fact that you're still trash." Her brother, however, remained unconcerned. "And losing to my little sister somehow makes you different?" As soon as he said this, the blonde boy was, sure enough, rendered speechless. Seeing her brother finally acting strong, The girl was deeply gratified, so she decided to give her brother a little help. She quietly moved around behind him and used the bum bum smack skill. The moment the skill activated, a strange light radiated from her brother's whole body, and he instantly unlocked A rank magic power. As long as her brother performed steadily, he would soon be able to rise to S rank, just like in their previous life. And her brother, who had just awakened his magic, also displayed formidable power in front of everyone. He scared the blonde boy so badly that he collapsed to the ground again. Now, it was hard to say who the real piece of trash was. And on that very day, the sunstone lit up twice, and each time its light was extraordinarily dazzling. This was a once-in-a-millennium spectacle. Although few people awakened magic after the age of 5, the sunstone's brilliant radiance was unmistakably telling everyone. Her brother's magic power was extremely strong. When her father heard that her brother had awakened magic, he was deeply relieved. He immediately ordered the head attendant to record her brother's name in the Book of the Sun. Looking at the king, who finally didn't seem quite so cold anymore, the head attendant felt a pang of melancholy. Ever since the incident a year ago, His Majesty had never emerged from his grief. He had even neglected his 2 children, leaving them to be tormented in the palace with no one to rely on. Fortunately, now that the prince had awakened, they finally had a reason to suppress the ambitious Bellin family. The Bellin family, the largest family besides the royal house, had always been coveting the throne. Because her brother was trash and the girl was an idiot, they had long considered the throne to be already in their pocket. Who knew the siblings would suddenly awaken magic one after another? This threw Madame Bellin into a panic. If the royal heirs were this outstanding, how could they still wrest away the throne? Just then, her daughter ran over to comfort her. "Don't worry, mother. I will definitely take back everything that rightfully belongs to our family." From then on, the Bellin family began preparing an even greater conspiracy. But the girl knew nothing of this. At the moment, she was busy stuffing herself in order to grow up faster. This delighted the maid sisters. They thoroughly enjoyed the process of feeding her. After she finished the last spoonful of solid food, the system notified her that a mission had been completed. The girl finally obtained a growth potion as she had wished. She hadn't expected it to be milk tea flavored this time. Sweet drinks really were the best. Just as she was happily drinking, her brother suddenly popped out, almost scaring her to an early grave. Thinking of how this guy had stolen her food more than once in their previous life, the girl immediately had a bad feeling. Sure enough, in the next second, her brother plopped down on the floor, begging her over and over to let him have a taste. So, as not to attract anyone's attention, the girl could only grit her teeth and exchange another bottle for him. The poor guy thought she was being incredibly generous with him, completely unaware that what she had exchanged for him was a horribly flavored boiled cabbage drink. After one sip, her brother almost dropped dead on the spot. The girl deliberately acted cute in front of him. "Big brother has to drink all of it, okay? Otherwise, I'll hate you." In order not to make his precious little sister sad, her brother had no choice but to force down the entire bottle. After drinking it, he collapsed flat on the ground. He really was just as weak as in their previous life. Shouldn't he be in class at this time of day? Facing the girl's suspicion, her brother only replied perfunctorily, "No class today." Having been siblings for more than 20 years, the girl knew him like the back of her hand and could tell at a glance that he was lying. But no matter how she tried to shoo him off, even bringing up their father, he still refused to budge. It seemed that in this life, the relationship between father and son was a bit strange. That night, once he returned to his quarters, her brother immediately began cleaning house. He drove away all the attendants who had been giving him the cold shoulder for years. In fact, he had long known that these people were the Bellin family spies, and now he could finally get rid of them. The head attendant happened to run into this scene. He immediately knelt before her brother, branches in hand, to plead guilty. "It was all my dereliction of duty. Please punish me, Your Highness the Prince." Her brother magnanimously forgave him and asked him to explain why he had come. The head attendant promptly took out the legendary Book of the Sun and presented it to her brother. This book was equivalent to the royal family register. The names of all royal members who awakened magic throughout the generations would be recorded in it. Her brother gently placed his hand on it. The Book of the Sun instantly emitted a dazzling light. In the next second, her brother's name was engraved upon it. The head attendant offered his congratulations to her brother. Thinking of what had happened that day, he resolved to thoroughly investigate the background of the palace attendants. He had to make sure such things would never happen again. 2 more weeks passed after that. Ever since her brother's name had been recorded in the Book of the Sun, their father had not gone to see him even once. But her brother had long since grown used to this. He only felt a bit sorry for his little sister. If she found out that their father was such a cold-blooded, heartless man, how sad would she be? After all, she liked their father so much. But he would never allow anyone to make his sister cry, not even their father. From her observations during this time, the girl also concluded that father and son were on bad terms. But this was just too strange. In their previous life, Her brother and father had gotten along extremely well, and their father had been such a kid slave that he'd wanted to stick to them 25 hours a day. Yet now he could go so long without even visiting them. On top of that, her brother actually addressed their father as Your Majesty. It seemed their father-son relationship was worse than bad. There had to be some kind of misunderstanding. She had to go ask their father and get to the bottom of it. So she immediately said she wanted to go see their father together with her brother. But as soon as her brother heard this, he kept trying to change the subject. With no other options, the girl could only use magic to fly out of the crib. Then she clung to her brother, begging him again and again. Yet her brother still refused. In the end, the girl had to use her trump card. She immediately decided she would go see their father all by herself. When her brother tried to stop her, she slapped his hand away, then walked off without looking back. Her brother watched her departing back. After an intense internal struggle, he finally stopped her and decided to go with her. The girl threw her arms around him in excitement. She knew this trick would work on him. At last, the girl successfully persuaded her brother to go see their father with her. But as soon as they reached their father's palace, they ran into the captain of the knights. It had to be said that in this life, Uncle Yumming was just as naturally familiar and friendly as in the last. He came up and chatted warmly with them, and even asked her brother if he could hold the girl. But her brother rejected him flatly. It wasn't that he was afraid the captain would drop her. He was afraid that stubbly face would prick and hurt her. The captain felt that was a fair point, so he turned around and hoisted her brother up instead. "Well, Your Highness, how's the air up there? Much better, isn't it?" This stunt left both her brother and the girl completely speechless. At first, her brother bashfully protested, shouting at him to put him down. But soon enough, he started enjoying it. Just then, a voice shattered the peaceful atmosphere. "Why is it so noisy?" In the next second, the king appeared at the window, his expression dark. His appearance startled the girl. Was he that exhausted from work? So she immediately reached out her arms to him, asking to be picked up. But the king only frowned and glanced at her, making no move at all. His cold indifference completely threw the girl off. In their previous life, her father had been so tender with her. Then the king ordered them out, saying this was no place for fooling around. The captain hurriedly tried to smooth things over. "Your Majesty, the children came here specifically to see you. Please don't blame them." But their father still remained unmoved. Her brother seemed to have expected this outcome. He glared angrily at their father. It seemed the situation was even more complicated than she had imagined. Something must have happened to their father. Her brother's attitude showed that this wasn't a recent problem, and it seemed to be related to their mother. She couldn't think of any other possibility. Just as the girl was thinking this, a system pop-up appeared again. This time, the mission was to win over Dad. So it turned out that, due to something that happened a year ago, their father had become the cold and heartless man he was now. And this mission was to help him resolve his inner knot and restore his relationship with them. But the mission description didn't mention a single crucial point. She had absolutely no clue what their father's emotional knot was. And then that awful system started glitching again. The rapid barrage of pop UPS overwhelmed her and made her burst into tears. Her brother happened to catch sight of her in that state, which deepened his resentment toward their father. "So, now you're going to hurt my little sister too?" Seeing the girl cry, their father leaped from 100 meters up without hesitation, then gently wiped away her tears. Just as the girl was still dazed, her brother suddenly slapped his hand away. "Please don't touch my sister so casually, Your Majesty. It's your fault she's crying." Now you start to care? At first, the girl thought her brother must be crazy to talk to their father like that. But when she saw everyone else around them remain silent, she instantly realized something was wrong. Now the misunderstanding had really blown up. If she didn't explain things quickly, their father would end up being branded a scumbag dad who only makes his daughter cry. So she hurried to explain to everyone that she wasn't crying because of their father. But no one believed her at all. Her brother even tried to pull her away. With no other choice, the girl could only resort to magic. She suddenly dove into their father's arms. She believed their father definitely loved them, because the gentle light emanating from him could not be faked. Just as she wanted to start building up her relationship with him, her brother still dragged her away without mercy. But she absolutely would not give up here. This time, she was determined to save her father. The next day, the girl officially began her mission. First thing in the early morning, she ran to the garden to look for clover, then used magic to fly up to her father's window and give it to him. She really gave her father quite a scare, but fortunately, he treated the clover she brought as a precious treasure. He even specially kept it in a teacup to grow. This moved the head attendant to tears. The girl truly might be able to melt the king's long-frozen heart, besides going to show her presence in front of her father every day. Her mission, as a one-year-old baby, was to eat well and grow up quickly. One day, she suddenly sensed something was off. Her clingy brother was nowhere to be seen at the table. It was impossible that he would give up a single minute or second of being with her. So she tentatively asked the nursemaid where her brother was. The nursemaid simply assumed her brother had been held up by something and didn't think much of it. But if her brother had something to do, he would usually tell her in advance. Could it be that he was still brooding over her insistence on sticking to their father? But surely he wasn't that petty, right? Even though she claimed she wasn't worried, the girl still went to look for their father. But because she waited far too long for him, she fell asleep just like that. When she groggily woke up, she found her father's handsome face right in front of hers. She was so startled she immediately sat up and asked to be picked up. But her father just froze in place, not moving at all. The head attendant thought he was simply too tired and advised him to go rest first. Her father refused his suggestion and directly started taking care of the child. The head attendant asked the girl what she had come for. Only then did the girl remember the important matter and quickly ask if he had seen her brother. When she heard the head attendant say he hadn't seen her brother today either, the girl grew anxious. Suddenly, she caught sight of the clover growing in the teacup. Her father hadn't thrown it away. This was a good sign. So she quickly came up with a good idea. She hurried to suggest to her father that maybe her brother was sick. Sure enough, her father's expression changed slightly. At that moment, the head attendant also admitted he didn't know what condition her brother was in. Her father was completely furious now. "And you call yourself head attendant? Outrageous." Hearing this, the head attendant immediately knelt to plead guilty. "It is all my incompetence. Please punish me, Your Majesty." Ever since all the problematic attendants in the prince's palace had been dealt with, her brother had strongly rejected any new attendants. This morning, the new attendants had been sent back again. As the head attendant spoke, he caught the girl's earnest gaze. He quickly understood what she meant, and immediately reminded the king that it might be better to go personally to the prince's palace and have a look. The girl also struck while the iron was hot, persuading her father to go together. But in the next second, the king suddenly stood up, then dumped the girl on the table and fled in a panic, making her so angry she cursed that she'd never play with him again. In the end, the girl decided to go look for her brother on her own. What she didn't know was that her father had actually been secretly watching her from the shadows. He wasn't doing much better than she was at that moment. To avoid the girl, he had actually gone to the place he least wanted to go. He forcibly yanked the covering cloth off a portrait, revealing a picture of him and his wife together. That had been the happiest time of his life. But ever since what happened a year ago, everything had changed. He had lost the wife he loved most. Since then, he had spent every day in atonement and had gradually grown distant from his children too. But now that his son was in such a state, he suddenly felt he could no longer sit by and do nothing. So he immediately ordered the head attendant to send people to investigate thoroughly. Meanwhile, the girl arrived at her brother's palace with a basket of food, only to find it eerily gloomy. It didn't look like anyone lived there at all. But to find her brother, the girl still steeled herself and went in. Once inside, she snapped her fingers and cast a light spell to brighten the palace. Seeing how deathly quiet the palace was, the girl couldn't help worrying. She wondered if her brother had been eating and sleeping properly these days. Once she found him, she might as well have him move in with her. They swept through the dining hall, study, and bathroom, but came up empty. On top of that, the girl discovered dust everywhere. The management here was truly awful. After all, her brother was still a noble prince. The girl was so angry that she shouted at the top of her lungs. Who knew that this would actually bring a response from her brother? Fuming, the girl flew up to him and demanded to know why he had taken so long to answer. But her brother instead noticed her dirty little hands. He thought her maids had also been mistreating her. The girl quickly yanked her hand back and explained that nothing of the sort had happened. The maid sisters all treated me very well. Only then did her brother relax. He then took her small hand and wiped it clean with his sleeve. The girl, meanwhile, pulled out the clover she had prepared in advance. This was a present for her brother. As soon as he heard that, her brother hurriedly took out a handkerchief and carefully wrapped it up. "So, you got your hands dirty just to pick this for me? Thank you, little sister. This is the second most important treasure of my life. I'll cherish it forever." Seeing how happy her brother was, the girl felt very relieved. The flower language of clover is happiness. She hoped it would bring happiness to her brother too. But why was it the second most important? Her brother smiled and said that the girl herself was his most important treasure. Yet the girl quickly caught something off in his smile. "Then why haven't you come to see me these past few days?" Her brother tried to gloss it over by changing the subject, but the girl bit down on his hand, hard, before he could. So her brother had no choice but to say he wanted to train his magic on his own. Hearing that only made the girl angrier. She could tell at a glance that he wasn't telling the truth. At last, under the girl's repeated pressing, her brother finally admitted that he had been angry that day because she insisted on clinging to their father. But since the girl had given him the clover, he now forgave her. At that moment, her brother noticed the sandwiches in the girl's basket. Seeing this, the maids all rushed upstairs in a fluster and chattered over one another to tell him that these were sandwiches the girl had made herself. Her brother really wanted to eat them, but he had just eaten and truly couldn't take another bite. In the end, Only after the girl's repeated pleading did he reluctantly decide to at least try a little. Who knew that after just one bite, his expression would turn very ugly? The maids thought he was choking. They hurried to hand him water. Only the girl sensed that something was wrong with the aura around her brother. In the next second, her brother flung the nursemaid's hand away and told them all to stay away from him. Then he collapsed from lack of strength. Seeing this, the maids immediately wanted to call for a doctor, but her brother kept begging them not to come near and told them to hurry and take the girl away. Only then did the nursemaid realize that her brother might be about to go berserk with magic. The girl had the same thought as the nursemaid. She immediately struggled free from the maid's arms and cast a protective barrier over the three of them, then flew toward her brother. When she reached him, her brother, still lucid enough, used a weak voice to tell her to run. This meant he was still in his right mind. That was a good sign. If he lost his mind, things would get much worse. At that moment, the girl noticed the strange aura swirling around her brother. It seemed to be ice magic. There were actually two mutually opposing elements inside her brother. No wonder he had never fully awakened. And by using her skill to awaken one type of magic in him, she had actually turned it into a death sentence. Seeing how much pain he was in, the girl grew frantic. Just then, a system mission triggered again. This time it was to help stabilize her brother's magic. It was a bit strange that all the system missions revolved around her and her family, but she had no time to dwell on that. The girl accepted the mission without hesitation. She could not bear to lose her brother again. Then she used the bum bum smack skill on him once more, successfully unlocking his second attribute. Now, even with both fire and ice magic at the same time, he no longer needed to fear going berserk. Just when the girl thought everything was over, the system started glitching again, and this time it seemed to be under attack. And the two forces of magic inside her brother suddenly erupted at once. The situation became critical in an instant. The girl could only try to suppress his rampaging power with all of her own magic. At the same time, a thunderclap split the sky. Some noblewoman gave birth to a black-haired, red-eyed child. After seeing the child's appearance, the woman was bitterly disappointed. A child like this couldn't be used as a tool for her profit and would instead become a hindrance. And once the Bellin Grand Duke found out, their support would be cut off. Still, he might have some value. She had just received news that the prince and princess had been in an accident. Just as she was thinking this, the baby in the crib suddenly opened his eyes. Blood-red pupils glowed faintly. It gave the woman such a fright. She even began to suspect the child she had given birth to wasn't human at all. Elsewhere, the girl was still desperately struggling to suppress her brother's rampaging magic. Before long, she received a system warning. Her body's organs were suffering varying degrees of damage from pushing her magic to the limit. But the girl chose to ignore those warnings and continued helping her brother recover. Her brother, with a shred of reason left, tried to get the girl to let go. But what he didn't know was that at this moment, the girl didn't dare release him at all. Because if she let go now, the berserk magic would tear her brother to pieces. The girl held on with the last of her will. At last, she calmed her brother's magic. But in its place, she herself was on the verge of going mad from backlash. Fortunately, her father arrived just in time. He had been in his office when he sensed the abnormal surge of magic. Through his efforts, he finally managed to get the girl's magic under control, and the girl fell into a coma. Her consciousness entered another space. A few days later, noble women gathered at the Grand Duke's estate for afternoon tea. Seeing that her brother and the girl were now likely to turn back into the useless wrecks they had once been, they promptly switched sides and started flattering the Grand Duchess instead. Although the Grand Duchess looked down on such fair-weather friends, she still enjoyed hearing their praise. Most importantly, the situation had swung back in favor of her family. It could be seen as finally washing away their earlier humiliation. Meanwhile, back in the royal palace, the girl had been running a high fever for 3 days straight since she fell into that coma. The maid sisters were so anxious they were practically spinning in circles. Her brother stayed by her side, not eating or drinking for 3 days. To get her brother back on his feet, the maid sisters could only invoke the girl. "Your Highness the Prince, you absolutely must eat something. Otherwise, when the princess wakes up, she'll definitely scold you." Hearing them say that, her brother finally agreed to eat a little. Right now, he only hoped his little sister would wake up soon. He would never make her angry again, but after just a few bites, he couldn't eat anymore. Then, he fled back to the girl's bedside. Seeing her little face flushed scarlet with fever, his heart twisted with pain. Thinking of their father, who hadn't shown his face even once during all these days, her brother's resentment toward him grew even stronger. But he knew this wasn't the time for blame. He only hoped the girl would get better soon. There was one thing he found very strange: who had saved them that day. Under normal circumstances, anyone ordinary who tried to save them would have been swept into the magic storm. Thinking this, He turned to ask the nursemaid for more details, but his legs suddenly went weak. Just as he was about to collapse, a pair of large hands caught him firmly. It was their father, who had arrived in time. Their father picked up the unconscious boy and laid him down beside the girl. He reached out to feel his son's forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, his magic had stabilized. Then he looked over at the girl, his expression complicated. That day, when he'd sensed the abnormal surge of magic, he had leapt straight from his office window and sprinted toward the prince's palace. When he arrived, what he saw was the girl on the verge of losing control, so he had used his own power to forcibly suppress hers. Luckily, his magic was strong enough. In her father's arms, the girl had gradually calmed down. After the whole upheaval finally settled, their father ordered the maids present not to mention that he had come, which was why her brother had been so puzzled just now. So it had all been deliberately concealed by their father. Fortunately, the maid sisters had all been personally chosen by their mother in the past, so they were loyal both to their father and to the siblings. That was also why their father could entrust the siblings to their care with an easy mind. As long as the two children rested properly, they would slowly recover. He simply hadn't expected the girl's condition to be this serious. Even with magic treatment every night, she still didn't improve. Thinking of this, he gently took the girl's small hand, praying that she would get better soon. Meanwhile, in the space of her consciousness, the girl was also struggling against her illness. Even though she had forgotten her brother's face and who she herself was, she still never gave up on saving herself. At last, on the afternoon of the second day, the girl slowly opened her eyes. She was still a bit dazed when she first woke up, but she quickly remembered her own name and also her brother's magic going berserk. When she anxiously tried to get up and look for her brother, her legs suddenly gave out, and she fell straight back onto the bed. Only then did she notice her brother lying beside her. Seeing that he was safe and sound, the girl couldn't help but shed tears of joy. Big brother is okay. That's wonderful. The girl and her brother woke from their comas one after the other. After a period of recuperation, they had almost fully recovered. To celebrate surviving this calamity, the girl decided to host a family dinner. Unexpectedly, Lady Nice had the same idea, but her purpose was to curry favor with the king. So she had all kinds of rare ingredients flown in, hoping to fully show off her skills. Yet when she opened the kitchen door, she was completely dumbfounded. She hadn't expected to see the cooks already preparing in an orderly fashion, while the girl and the nursemaid supervised at the side. Thinking of the upcoming family dinner, the girl felt deeply content. If her mother were also here, it would be perfect. But under the current circumstances, she didn't dare ask for too much. Better to cherish the present. Just as she and the nursemaid were cheering the cooks on, Lady Nice's annoyed voice rang out. "Ale, what are you doing here?" She shot the girl a fierce glare. The nursemaid hurriedly dropped to her knees and explained that they were preparing for a family dinner. As soon as she heard this, Lady Nice started scolding the nursemaid. Utter nonsense. The princess has only just recovered from serious injuries. How can you let her do such things? Do you have any sense of priorities at all? The nursemaid immediately began apologizing, but the girl suddenly stepped in front of her. "I've already got my energy back, so helping with this is no problem." Hearing this, Lady Nice first gave the girl a formal curtsy, then mercilessly sneered. "Your Highness, I had thought you would never wake up. Seeing you so energetic now puts my mind at ease." At first, the girl didn't catch the undertone. It was only with the next words that she realized something was off. "But since you've only just recovered, it would be better not to make His Majesty worry again." Now the girl understood. This old aunt was here to pick a fight on purpose, and she immediately stated that she absolutely would not give up the kitchen. So Lady Nice turned her fire on the nursemaid instead. "Ale, how are you disciplining the princess? Hurry up and take her back." The girl flared up at once when she heard that. "You're not allowed to bully the nursemaid. If you've got a problem, take it out on me. Don't drag innocent people in." In that instant, Lady Nice became the focus of the entire kitchen. Being so concerned with face, she could only unwillingly apologize to the girl and slink away. Elsewhere, the king received the girl's dinner invitation, but he still felt too ashamed to face his children, so he didn't want to go. He hadn't expected the girl to burst in the very next second and plant herself right onto his face. She had anticipated that her father would react this way, so she'd been waiting at the door in advance. Under her barrage of emotional persuasion, plus the head attendant's support, the king finally relented and agreed. When they arrived at the dining hall, her brother waved at them excitedly. "Sister, thank you for inviting me. Come eat with me." But the moment he realized the girl had come with their father, his face instantly fell. All at once, the atmosphere grew oppressively heavy. "Your Majesty, looks like you finally found the time. You've been ignoring me and my sister all this time. Is it only because I awaken magic that you've decided to show up and pretend to care now?" Seeing her brother go further and further with his words, the girl hurried to stop him. "Don't talk to father like that. Brother, if you keep this up, I'll really get mad." To her surprise, her brother just sighed. "Sister, you don't know anything. I hate you all. With that, he smashed through the window and jumped straight out. Seriously, was jumping out of windows some sort of family tradition? Why did they all like doing it so much? Watching her brother's figure grow smaller and smaller, the girl was still completely lost. She still had no idea what had really happened between their father and brother. And clearly, neither of them wanted to tell her. Sure enough, in the next second, her father also made an excuse to leave. No matter how she tried to stop him, it was useless. He only left behind a single "I'm sorry" before hardening his heart and walking away. After they had both gone, the girl remained upset about what had happened. In their previous life, their family had been so harmonious. How had it come to this in this life? Just what had happened between her father and brother. Thinking this, the girl couldn't help opening the system window, hoping to see some useful mission notification. But of all times, she had no missions now, and after just a few taps, it started glitching again. She really couldn't stand this awful system. Maybe she should just give up on it altogether. Just as she thought that, the system suddenly prompted her to confirm her skill tree. The girl immediately opened it in excitement, and was surprised to discover she had gained an A-rank skill that could read another person's memories. She knew full well that peeking into someone's memories like that was wrong, but right now it was the only way to break the deadlock. So the girl immediately called the nursemaid and the others and headed for her brother's palace. At this moment, her brother was brooding in silence. As soon as he heard the girl had come, he immediately apologized to her. "About what happened just now, I'm sorry. You went to all that trouble to prepare a meal for us." The girl said she didn't mind at all. Then she asked the nursemaid and the others to step out for a while. Next, with a very serious face, she asked her brother what exactly had happened between him and their father. As expected, her brother still refused to say anything, just like always. Since that was the case, the girl had no choice but to use her skill. She felt a bit guilty toward her brother, but this was for the sake of family harmony. In the next second, the girl closed one eye and fixed her single open eye on him. Once the skill activated, she quickly entered her brother's consciousness space. Her brother's inner world was even gloomier than she had imagined. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice. It turned out to be her brother's memory from when she was still in their mother's belly. Finally seeing her mother alive before her, the girl was moved to tears. But that wasn't the main point right now. The key was to find out why her father and brother had fallen out. Suddenly, she heard her parents arguing. Her mother was questioning why her father had betrayed her while she was pregnant. Her father didn't explain, only apologized over and over. In the end, things escalated to the point of divorce, and her brother heard all of this clearly from outside the door. Just as the girl reached this point, her consciousness was suddenly yanked back into the real world by her brother. "Sister, are you okay? You just zoned out and didn't answer me. You scared me to death. Are you hurt somewhere? Did father say something to you after I left?" The girl quickly smoothed things over. "Of course not. I'm just a little tired." Hearing that, her brother grew even more anxious. "Right. Your illness has only just cleared up. Maybe this is too much for you? If you're having a hard time, you have to tell me right away, because you're the sister I treasure most." The girl nodded again, and again at his words. Even so, when it came to rumors about their father, her brother definitely wouldn't tell her more. So she could only go to their father herself, planning to use mind reading to get to the truth. But when she tried to activate the skill on her father, she got a skill error prompt instead. After several errors in a row, just as the girl was about to assume that damn system was acting up again, another window popped open. On it were her father's inner thoughts. He was silently praising how adorable she was. It seemed that she couldn't see the deepest memories in her father's heart with this skill, but she could hear his thoughts. Even just from those thoughts, it was enough to confirm that her father still loved the two of them. So the girl immediately started acting spoiled with her father. She even climbed right into his arms of her own accord. Seeing how cute she was, her father couldn't help but reach out and pat her head. Feeling that gentle warmth from him, the girl became certain that her brother must be mistaken. After all, how could a father who loved them like this do something so awful? She looked at her father very earnestly. "Daddy, I know it was actually you who saved me and brother, because you love us very, very much." Her father flinched at those words, clearly not expecting her to suddenly say that. The tips of his ears flushed red. Her mother had once said that whenever her father got embarrassed, the tips of his ears would turn red. It seemed she'd guessed right, but her father seemed to have some burden he couldn't speak of, mumbling that he wasn't worthy of loving them. Just as the girl was puzzling over this, Uncle Yumming suddenly arrived to make his report. As soon as he saw the girl there too, he was instantly overjoyed. He immediately wanted to rush over and scoop her up, but the girl, annoyed at having their conversation interrupted, wanted nothing to do with him. This made Uncle Yumming terribly dejected. He had even shaved his beard clean especially for her. His clingy, overdramatic behavior also greatly annoyed her father. "Don't go blaming this on the princess. It was clearly you who wanted to shave." Seeing father and daughter so united against him, Uncle Yumming burst into loud, theatrical sobs on the spot. The girl was speechless at his over-the-top performance, so she simply went back to clinging to her father instead. But when her father saw her acting so sweet, his face only grew more desolate. "Don't you hate me? It's my fault you two lost your mother at such a young age." Her father confessed to the girl that he was a sinner, that because of him, they had lost their mother so early. And deep down, he believed that someone like him had no right to be near them. Hearing the thoughts in her father's heart, the girl burst into tears. "So, that's why you've always treated us like that? That's awful. When you never really hated us at all." Seeing her crying harder and harder, her father hurried to pick her up and soothe her. But her tears only flowed more fiercely. "I really love playing with Daddy, but I hate the you who pretends to hate us. We finally got to meet each other again after all." Her father's death in their previous life had been a devastating blow to their whole family. They forced themselves to endure the grief and held a funeral without even a body. So in this life, when they met again, the girl had been unable to contain her excitement. Yet her father had always treated her so coldly, it hurt her too much. Seeing her like that, he pulled her tightly into his arms, not knowing how to comfort his sobbing little daughter. Hearing her cry so heartbreakingly, he couldn't help the tears that welled up in his own eyes. He could only say "I'm sorry" to her over and over. Just then, the system's long-absent notification sounded. "Mission went over Dad complete. New branch mission unlocked. Become close with Dad." On the other side, after learning that the three of them, father and sons, had argued, Lady Nice hurried over to sow discord with her brother. Now was the perfect time to drive a wedge between them. When she reached the door, she suddenly heard her brother telling Lieutenant General Bush to leave, even though Lieutenant General Bush kept saying he had been sent by their father to protect him. But her brother simply refused to believe it. After all these years of being ignored, plus what had happened with their mother, he had long since given up on their father. Now, he only wanted Lieutenant General Bush to get out as quickly as possible. Eavesdropping on this, Lady Nice found it hilarious. Their father sending Lieutenant General Bush over was basically his way of acknowledging her brother as heir, yet that foolish boy was driving him away. This situation was perfect for her, so she shoved the door open and told Lieutenant General Bush to take the hint and leave. Clinging on like this, are you planning to rebel or what? Her brother quickly noticed the clothing she was wearing, which had originally belonged to their mother. In the next instant, magic began swirling around him. He then fiercely demanded to know why Lady Nice was wearing their mother's clothes, and told her to think carefully before she spoke, or he didn't know what he might do to a thief who had stolen his mother's belongings. Hearing that, Lady Nice went pale with fright. She dropped to her knees and begged for mercy. "You're mistaken, Your Highness. Her Majesty the Queen gave this to me. She gave it to me as her final gift." Only after that answer did her brother calm down, and he told the two of them to get out. But to his surprise, Lady Nice refused to leave. She thought he was just an easy-to-fool child. "Your Highness, Her Majesty earnestly entrusted you to me. She begged me to take good care of you." Her brother froze at that. "Not my sister too? Only me?" Seeing that he had taken the bait, Lady Nice beamed. "Of course, Her Majesty loved only you. From now on, I will love and protect you in her place. I'll do a better job than His Majesty, the King, ever did." She had barely finished when her brother shoved her away. "You liar. How dare you say that Mother didn't love my sister? And how dare you use her to tell your lies? I don't need anyone else to take care of me. Just having my sister is enough." No sooner had he said that than he saw the girl standing in the doorway, secretly laughing at him. He hadn't expected his words to be overheard by the girl who had just arrived. His face suddenly flushed crimson. Before the girl could react, he jumped out the window and ran again. Honestly, why was it always this move every time? As soon as her brother left, Lady Nice collapsed on the floor and started wailing. Even though she'd been a full 5 meters away from them just moments earlier, she somehow managed to shuffle herself to their father's feet. "Your Majesty, even though His Highness shouted at me, I'm all right." Seeing Lady Nice's fake pitiful act, the girl clicked her tongue involuntarily. All that over being lightly shoved by a 7-year-old. How bad could it be? Hearing her click her tongue, the maid suddenly grew excited. "Oh my, even the way Her Highness the Princess clicks her tongue is adorable." The girl was so embarrassed by their praise that she just wished she could grow up faster. But when dealing with scum like Lady Nice, scolding her was pointless compared to ignoring her. So she simply started chatting with her father instead. "Daddy, you were way too shy just now." Her father could only respond helplessly to that. "More than that, I think your brother ran off because he hates me. I'll just look for another chance to open my heart to him slowly." The girl panicked at once when she heard that. "But I want you and brother to get along." Seeing the hopeful look on her face, her father immediately picked her up and leapt from the windowsill. This scared the servants half to death. They rushed out after them in a panic. The remaining knights dealt with Lady Nice swiftly and efficiently, leaving Lady Nice utterly baffled. She had no idea where her plan had gone wrong. Meanwhile, after jumping out the window, the girl and her father successfully caught up with her brother. Even though her brother kept struggling all the way, trying to escape, they still forced him into a room. The moment he was set down, he tried to run, but he was blocked by the magic barrier the girl and her father had already prepared. The girl said they had some things they wanted to talk over with him, but her brother had no interest in listening, so the girl had no choice but to reuse her old trick. "Brother, are you trying so hard to run away because you don't love me anymore?" Her brother frantically waved his hands at that. "How could I ever not love you?" Hearing this, the girl happily grabbed his hand. "Then will you still run?" Only after he promised again and again that he wouldn't run anymore did the girl show a sly smile. Now the plan could proceed smoothly. Next, they brought out an assortment of pastries and began the first afternoon tea shared by father and sons. But father and son both sat there with dark expressions, completely silent. This thoroughly depressed the girl, so she simply opened the system to check their affection levels. And what she saw shocked her. She hadn't expected both of their affection levels toward her to already be at the maximum. Seeing how deeply they both cared about her made the girl's face burn bright red. But right now, their feelings for her didn't matter. What mattered was their feelings for each other. So she secretly probed a bit further. She discovered that her father's affection for her brother was also at the highest level. But her brother's affection for their father was only one tiny bar. It seemed their father would have to put in a lot of effort. "Daddy, what do you want to say to brother? Hurry up and say it." To her surprise, her father tried to chicken out again. "As much as I want to have a good talk with your brother, I still feel I don't really have the right." The girl cupped his face in both hands. "You don't have to overthink it. Just say what's in your heart." Those were the very words her father had told her in their previous life. Whenever she'd had a falling out with friends, he had always patiently comforted her. "Senna, if you don't say it, your feelings won't get through. Even if you truly feel sorry towards someone, you still have to say it properly. Otherwise, the rift will never heal." Thinking of this, the girl patted her father's shoulder. "You can do it, Daddy. I believe in you." Encouraged by her, her father finally mustered the courage to sit down in front of her brother, then gently patted his hand. "I'm sorry, Lise. Whether it's about your mother or leaving you and your sister to fend for yourselves when you were so young, I'm truly sorry." By this point, tears were already welling up at the corners of her brother's eyes. Her father reached up and gently brushed them away. "In truth, the reason I've stayed away from you all this time is because I felt I wasn't worthy of loving you. But your sister told me that was wrong." Choking up, her brother forced the words out. "So, you want me to forgive you?" But her father only shook his head. "I don't dare hope for your forgiveness. I only wanted to tell you that I'm sorry." Hearing that, her brother wrapped his arms around their father and burst into tears. "You idiot, do you have any idea how much I've suffered all these years?" Seeing father and son clutching each other and sobbing, the girl's eyes filled with tears as well. She rushed to join them. In this life, she was absolutely determined to protect the family she held so dear. Ever since she'd successfully reconciled her father and brother, the girl had been grinning foolishly every day. That joyful mood quietly spread to the maids as well. Until one day, the girl received a mission completed notification from the system. "Congratulations to the host on completing the mission. I hope you'll keep your promise." The girl was puzzled by this strangely human-like tone. In fact, this wasn't the first time the system had spoken like that. Back in her previous life, when she was on the verge of death, the system had popped up lines like, "Does she not like me?" Strangely, she had no memory of ever saying anything like that to the system. In theory, a system shouldn't have a personality at all. Had something changed in it after her reincarnation? Thinking about it carefully, in this life it had constantly given her beneficial missions, or helped her grow stronger. Just as the girl was trying to get to the bottom of it, the system began glitching again. So the girl simply gave up, deciding to let it be. Whether it was friend or enemy, she would never again allow it to hurt her family. At that moment, her father and brother happened to come visit her. Ever since the mission had been completed, the two of them had grown closer by the day. Thinking of the mission, the girl suddenly realized she'd forgotten something. She still hadn't received the reward for that mission. Her father and brother knew nothing of this. Her brother was still fantasizing about pinching her marshmallow-soft cheeks. If her father hadn't firmly stopped him, he probably would have gone for it. In the end, it became a world where the only one who suffered was the girl. She had never imagined, even in her dreams, that the system would actually ghost her on the reward. Meanwhile, in the Principality of Nazca, a black-haired boy dressed in lavish clothes lay on a magic altar. An old man beside him, eyes brimming with tears, called out, "Your Highness the Prince." The boy only slowly opened his golden eyes, murmuring, "This time, I will definitely. Then he closed his eyes once more, after successfully helping her father and brother make peace. The three of them finally enjoyed a stretch of happy days together. And 2 years later, they finally began their counterattack against the Grand Duke's family. Over those 2 years, her father and brother had spent a great deal of time with the girl. They had even prepared a whole magic fairy outfit just for her. As someone with the mind of an adult, she did find it a bit childish, but the soft pink outfit was honestly too hard to refuse. So the girl put it on at once and started acting out little scenes. Her father and brother were completely overwhelmed by the cuteness. Not only that, her brother was also obsessed with finding all sorts of fun toys for her. That day, he brought her a dollhouse because he thought the little princess doll inside looked just like her. So he couldn't wait to present it to her. When the girl saw the dollhouse, she only commented casually that it was very cute and said nothing more. This immediately made her brother nervous, afraid she didn't like it. Seeing him like that, the girl quickly picked up the dolls and invited him to play together. She chose the princess and demon king dolls, while her brother chose the prince. Watching the two of them playing happily, the nursemaid felt deeply comforted. Just then, a maid called softly to the nursemaid from the doorway. This instantly made the girl alert. Curious about what they were going to whisper about, the girl set down the dolls at once and started eavesdropping. Outside, after the maid led the nursemaid out, she began telling her about some rumors that had been going around recently. Supposedly, someone had been spreading lies everywhere, claiming that ever since her brother's magic rampage, he had lost his power, and that the girl had turned back into an idiot because of that same incident. The rumor-mongers were also saying that once their father found out, he had decided to abandon the siblings and adopt the Grand Duke Belen's pair of children instead. Hearing this, the girl clenched her fists at once. They really dared to dream big, but it was probably because their family hadn't appeared in public for a long time. Ever since the misunderstandings were cleared up, they had cherished their time together even more. She hadn't expected that to become an excuse for ill-intentioned people to twist the truth. At that moment, her brother, who had also been secretly listening, quietly asked what they should do next. The girl made a hand gesture, meaning that of course they had to strike back hard, or those people really would think their family was easy to bully. So this time, their father hosted a banquet and invited the nobles to attend. When everyone saw the long-absent Grand Duchess, they all hurried up to flatter her. "Your Grace, it's been such a long time since you last came to court, and this time you've even brought the young lord and lady. Our young lord and lady are truly a fine and beautiful pair. Only they are fit to shoulder the Empire's future." Listening to their fawning, the Grand Duchess felt lightheaded with pride. Yes, this was how it should be. Her children were the truly suitable heirs. Unlike that pair of useless siblings, pitiable creatures with no magic at all. The Grand Duchess exchanged a glance with the Marchioness of Ross, then led her children into the hall. The hall was already packed to the brim. After all, this was the first large-scale banquet the king had held in 2 years. And everyone had come to watch the drama. They wanted to know whether the king would really make the Belen Grand Duke's children his heirs. Just as the crowd was buzzing with speculation, her father entered with the girl and her brother. Everyone was stunned to see her brother safe and sound. By all rights, someone who had experienced a magic rampage should not have been able to recover. Her brother spotted Achilles among the crowd. He silently mouthed, "Pure pants brat," which made Achilles absolutely furious. At that moment, the girl in her father's arms also drew everyone's gaze. With that angelic little face, it was hard to believe she was an idiot. And her brother didn't look like someone who had lost his magic at all. On top of that, her father's obvious care for the two of them looked nothing like the rumors about him having abandoned his children. Although the Grand Duchess was already starting to panic, she still firmly believed the girl had reverted to being an idiot, and a king who doted on his children so much would surely accept her children in the end. So she signaled to the Marchioness of Ross again. The Marchioness promptly stepped forward to stand before her father. "Your Majesty, allow me, as a citizen of the Empire, to boldly offer a suggestion. Please make the Belen young lord and lady your heirs. Only then will the people be at ease." Hiding under her father's cloak, the girl heard this and showed a sly smile. Everything was going just as she'd expected, but to her surprise, her father suddenly went off script. His expression darkened as he demanded of the Marchioness of Ross, "I don't understand what you're saying. Both the prince and princess have made the sunstone shine. How are they unqualified to be heirs?" The moment her father finished speaking, everyone present felt an inexplicable pressure settle over them. The captain of the knights watched the punished nobles in silence, utterly exasperated. These people had lived too comfortably and forgotten what kind of bloody battles the current king had waded through to seize the throne. Not only had he single-handedly eliminated 5 rivals in the succession struggle, he had personally beheaded his half-brother who had tried to rebel. Though he had softened after meeting the queen, and grown detached and unambitious after losing her, at heart, he was still that fearsome god of slaughter who made all tremble. So for these people to touch the king's inverse scale was simply courting death. The girl also realized that her father's emotions were on the verge of slipping out of control. She immediately clutched his clothes tightly to stop him. Seeing the king regain his composure, the Grand Duchess shakily stepped forward to smooth things over. "Is this how you treat loyal ministers who dare to speak? Someone quickly help her down." At those words, the crowd hurriedly and clumsily escorted the Marchioness of Ross away. After a doctor's examination, it was declared that she had suffered severe psychological trauma and would need several months of rest. The girl was furious and disappointed. If her father hadn't lost his temper so quickly, she could have used this chance to properly deal with the Grand Duchess and that beansprout-headed boy. Seeing his precious daughter puffing her cheeks in anger, her father immediately began apologizing. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean to." Watching the king humble himself to coax the girl, Achilles couldn't hold back anymore. "Why does that piece of trash get to be the prince when I don't? Didn't you promise I would be the prince?" The Grand Duchess felt a jolt of dread when she saw her son like this. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I'm so sorry. Achilles is still just a thoughtless child and speaks without restraint. Please, I beg you to forgive him." But Achilles only grew more agitated when he heard her say that. "How am I thoughtless, mother? Everyone keeps saying I'm going to be the prince." Hearing this, her brother couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. "If the prince were someone like you, even the sun god would sigh." Achilles was instantly enraged. "What right does a magic-less piece of trash like you have to insult me? Your magic rampage from 2 years ago has been spread far and wide. No royal who's triggered a rampage has ever recovered their power." Seeing this, the Grand Duchess chimed in to support her son. "Yes, everyone knows His Highness the Prince caused a magic rampage, and Her Highness the Princess seems to have become a bit muddle-headed after her fever." Her brother found their mother and son double-act hilarious. "Leaving my sister and me aside for now, even if you really did inherit the throne, would the country's future truly be bright?" Achilles was left speechless by the retort. He immediately moved to step forward and show her brother a lesson with magic. But then white light suddenly flared in her brother's hand. When the two forces of magic collided, it was obvious that her brother had the upper hand. Her brother looked down coolly at the disheveled Achilles, then silently lifted his foot off Achilles' chest. Only then did everyone finally realize that her brother losing his magic had been a complete lie. After finishing his lesson, her brother trotted over to the girl to claim credit. "I did great, didn't I, sister?" The girl only shot him a fierce glare. "Great, my foot, you idiot." Instead of being angry at her reaction, father and son were actually reminded of how she used to grumble when she was little, which only made the girl more exasperated. The warm interaction among father and children was fully taken in by everyone present, and people couldn't help remarking how adorable the girl was. Hearing this, her father preened inwardly at once. "Now everyone should know just how cute my daughter is." Her brother, too, lifted his chin proudly. After this whole farce, everyone finally understood that the rumors about the siblings had been lies. The culprit was almost certainly the Grand Duke's family, and now the Grand Duchess's image had completely collapsed. And the girl had toppled her with hardly any effort at all. She just wasn't used to her father and brother's sudden bouts of clinginess. It felt unbearably embarrassing. After the family thoroughly put the Grand Duke's household in their place, they finally welcomed a long-awaited period of peace. And ever since seeing the girl in her little magical fairy getup, her father seemed possessed, suddenly scouring everywhere to collect every kind of magic wand for her. This left the girl thoroughly depressed. Even though she was now a child in body, in truth her heart was already that of an adult woman. She simply could not accept such ridiculously childish gifts. Yet somehow, in this life, her father was exactly the same as in the last. Back then, he had tirelessly played magical hunter games with her when she was little. And in this life, he was crazily obsessed with buying her magic wands. There was just no dealing with a doting father like him. The next second, her father and brother appeared at the door, and the system started acting up again, spitting out error messages nonstop. It gave her quite a scare. Seeing her like that, her father and brother dashed over immediately. They swept the servants in the room with fierce gazes. "Who's been bullying my daughter? If I find out, I won't let them off. Someone call the night order at once." The girl was completely stunned by their overblown reaction. She hurriedly grabbed onto their clothes. "Dad and brother, I really give up on you too. Can't you stop looking so scary all the time?" Seeing their precious girl all puffed up with indignation, both their hearts melted. They instantly turned into clingy little puppies, begging her forgiveness. Then they said they had brought her gifts. When she first saw the 3 huge gift boxes the attendants carried in, the girl was puzzled. Once they were opened, she immediately pulled a face of pure disgust. She hadn't expected her father and brother to give her yet another pile of magic wands. She had already told them she wasn't a child anymore, Why did they keep treating her like one? It was exhausting. Who would have thought that at such a young age, she would have already reached magic wand freedom? But seeing how happy her father and brother were, she didn't quite have the heart to refuse them. Just then, she finally remembered the glitching system and quickly opened the interface. Fortunately, the system had returned to normal and was ready to distribute her mission rewards. This made the girl beam with delight, and she instantly forgave it for the earlier errors. Since this reward was a combined payment for 2 missions, it was extremely rare, an ability upgrade ticket. The girl immediately used the ticket on her mind-reading skill. After using it, mind-reading was upgraded from A rank to S rank. With the level up, mind-reading gained an extra effect, a 10% chance to randomly hear someone's thoughts. Overjoyed, the girl immediately tested it out quietly on the maids, but it didn't trigger even once. Furious, the girl pummeled her pillow. She knew that hateful system was as useless as ever. Who knew that even at S rank the skill would still be this hard to use? She couldn't help flopping onto the bed and giving up on everything. Suddenly, she thought of the Demon King from her previous life. Now that all the families she knew had one by one reunited with her in this world. Could it be that others she'd known in her previous life might also have been reborn here? Might the Demon King have been as well? Just as she was lost in thought, her brother appeared and interrupted her. "Sister, are you feeling down?" Seeing him, the girl decided not to dwell on it anymore. At least in this life, everyone in her family except her mother was safe and sound. If the Demon King really had been reincarnated too, she would definitely give him a thorough beating and make him pay. Then she suddenly noticed the clover brooch on her brother's chest. She hadn't expected him to use magic to preserve it so carefully. He even said it was his most precious treasure. Her father had a matching brooch as well. This moved the girl deeply. She had never thought that the clover she'd picked so casually would be treated as a treasure by them. Elsewhere, Grand Duke Bellin was fuming at having been deceived by Miss Horton, because the child she had born seemed to be an idiot. Miss Horton clutched his trouser leg tightly, insisting that her child was definitely not an idiot. She begged the Grand Duke to take a proper look at the child. When his gaze swept over the child, he immediately noticed something strange. A sinister black aura seemed to coil around her, and there was an indescribable ominousness about her entire being. The sight left the Grand Duke utterly stunned. Miss Horton, seeing his reaction, hurriedly begged him not to cut off their living expenses. The black-haired, red-eyed little girl, however, ignored their entanglement and instead frowned in the direction of the royal palace. "Looks like you haven't given up yet. Then just go on living happily like this, Senna." And at that point, the girl did not continue. She couldn't reveal that she knew the names of people she had no business knowing. After the girl used the upgrade ticket to boost her mind reading, that 10% bonus effect had almost never triggered on anyone until that person appeared. That day, the girl was staring blankly out the window, doing nothing in particular. Just then, an orange-haired maid suddenly walked in and launched into an introduction. "Hello, everyone, my name is Mirinda. I'm the newly arrived chief maid." When the girl saw that a newcomer had arrived, she knew there was going to be a new quest again. Sure enough, the next second a quest pop-up appeared. Sudden quest, the spy who likes me. The moment she heard the word spy, the girl immediately became vigilant. Then, based on Mirinda's surname, she instantly thought of Lady Nice, who just had to sow discord within their family. It seemed this Mirinda must have been sent by her. Ever since she had taught her a lesson last time, she thought Lady Nice would restrain herself a bit, but unexpectedly, before long she started pulling these tricks again. And Lady Nice had actually made her own niece the chief maid right off the bat. This was the highest ranked position in the girls' palace. Mirinda clearly took pride in Lady Nice. "You're not thinking of disobeying my aunt's orders, are you? My aunt is the deputy head maid of the Queen's palace." As soon as the girl heard this, she immediately said that having everyone here was more than enough, and she absolutely did not need a new maid. The moment she said this, the maids were instantly moved to tears. Her brother's eyes also shone with excitement. "Really, little sister? So that's what you think?" However, since they had already received Mirinda's formal transfer order, they couldn't just ignore it. So the girl immediately blinked at her and greeted her. The next second, all of Mirinda's basic information appeared before her eyes. In addition, while learning about Mirinda, she unexpectedly triggered an additional effect of her skill. Then Mirinda's inner voice appeared right in front of her. It turned out she actually found the girl's blinking expressions so cute that it had captured her, but she was trying hard to keep herself from being bewitched. Seeing her like this, her brother looked extremely displeased. "You dare ignore my sister's greeting?" It seems the maids of the Queen's palace are nothing special after all. The maids at the side immediately echoed her brother's words. That's right, His Highness the Prince is absolutely right. To receive such a cute greeting and still remain unmoved, clearly she's lacking in quality. At the same time, her brother began to suspect Mirinda's motives. Could it be that you harbor improper desires toward the princess and deliberately sneaked in here? When Miranda heard him lay bare her secret with one pointed remark, she grew so nervous she didn't know what to do with her hands and feet. At that moment, the girl suddenly lunged toward her. Then she grabbed her hand and showed a sweet smile. "Miranda, from now on stay here and keep me company, okay?" That adorable little expression instantly captured Miranda's heart. She fell for her on the spot. Indeed, a simple-minded girl like Miranda just didn't have the talent to be a spy. Very soon, the system also issued a new quest. As long as she could make Miranda willingly defect, she would obtain an S-rank item. For the sake of this item, the girl decided she was going to win Miranda over no matter what. After that, Miranda was assigned to guard the magic wand storeroom. At first, she was very resistant. She still had to hurry and complete the task her aunt had given her. Her aunt had told her to infiltrate the princess's palace to deliver information to her, and then look for an opportunity to take control of the princess's palace. Only then would the two of them, aunt and niece, have a chance to rise to high positions. By then, she would be the queen's niece. But now she had ended up as a servant who spent all day polishing magic wands. This was just way too ridiculous. How was she supposed to report back to her aunt like this? Although Miranda thought this way, she quickly adapted to life guarding the magic wand storeroom and even began to enjoy it. Even in her letters reporting to her aunt, she kept writing about how much she adored her current job. She nearly made Lady Nice's face twist with rage. Originally, Lady Nice thought this stupid niece would be easy to use, but unexpectedly, she had instead planted a hidden danger for herself. Fortunately, the girl didn't know too much, so Lady Nice simply stopped worrying about her. It was just that, after the brother had completely wiped out the spies she had planted in the prince's palace last time, the head attendant had become exceptionally strict about the selection of servants. At this rate, it was only a matter of time before she was pushed out. And yet, the niece she had finally managed to plant at the girl's side was so utterly useless. What was she supposed to do from now on? On the other side, after carefully inspecting the newly delivered magic wands, the brother gave Miranda high praise. Miranda was also deeply relieved that the girl could now play safely with the magic wands. After all, she had polished them a full 33 times. But in her heart, she still couldn't help complaining about her aunt's lack of appreciation. Clearly, guarding the princess's adorable smile was such a meaningful, mission-filled task. Yet her aunt told her not to report such trivial, irrelevant information again. She wondered whether her aunt had still been secretly wearing the queen's clothes lately. But at this point, she really had no idea what her aunt had sent her here for in the first place. All these little secret thoughts in her heart were completely seen through by the girl, because the additional effect of the skill had no usage limit. During this time, she had already gotten to know Miranda in depth. Therefore, she completed the quest to subdue Miranda in just half a month. Just as she was about to claim her quest reward, the system popped up a new mission. This time, the quest was actually protect Daddy's chastity. It turned out the ever-scheming Lady Nice, still dreaming of becoming queen, had started up new tricks again. She knew that woman was like an unkillable cockroach, and now she actually dared to set her sights on her daddy. This time, she was absolutely going to drive her out of the palace, so she could never come back. That day, the girl was having afternoon tea with her daddy and her brother. On the surface, it was everyone sitting together drinking tea and chatting. But in reality, it was her daddy and brother frantically feeding the girl. On one side, daddy fed her a bite of dessert. He even remembered to wipe her mouth for her. On the other side, brother handed the prepared tea to the girl. After the girl had eaten and drunk her fill, she suddenly remembered something. She immediately raised her little hand and said to her daddy, "Oh right, daddy, there's something I want to do." The moment daddy and brother heard this, they immediately told her to say it. Even if she wanted to pluck the stars from the sky, they would try their best to fulfill her wish. The girl merely asked to go and have a look at mommy's room. When daddy heard this, he let out a relieved smile. "Daddy really should have taken you to see it long ago. There just never seemed to be a right moment." The next second, daddy scooped the girl up into his arms. Then he reached his hand out toward his son. "Then, Lise, let's go together." Seeing the three of them so happy and harmonious together, the nanny's eyes instantly reddened. She had finally lived to see this day. For a long time before, mentioning the queen had been forbidden in the palace, but now the girl had changed all that. The nanny believed that from now on their family would only grow happier and happier. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lady Nice was completely unaware of all this. She was still happily sneaking around in mommy's clothes. "As I thought, this crown suits me best of all. Things should go smoothly this time too. After all, I already pulled it off once before, but back then, Grand Duke Bellin gave the chance to another woman. Now, all of this will be mine." Just as Lady Nice was indulging in her dream of becoming queen, the door to the room was suddenly opened. Then the girl's family appeared before her just like that. Seeing Daddy, Lady Nice turned deathly pale with fright. Daddy calmly handed the girl in his arms over to brother. Then, With a dark expression, he looked at Lady Nice. "You actually dared to steal the queen's clothes." The moment Daddy's words fell, a magic attack grazed Lady Nice and struck the wall behind her. Lady Nice was so frightened that she collapsed onto the floor. Then Daddy ordered people to carefully remove from her body the clothes that belonged to Mommy. He then shot a sidelong glance at the maids kneeling nearby. "So, this is why you kept obstructing me from entering the room again and again?" The maids trembled with fear. "Your Majesty, you wrong us. We only thought that Lady Nice was organizing Her Majesty the Queen's belongings." At that moment, Lady Nice, whose clothes were about to be taken off, suddenly started shouting, "How dare you treat your master like this?" Daddy almost laughed in anger when he heard this. "I had no idea. Since when did a mere deputy head maid become the mistress of the Queen's palace?" Seeing this, Lady Nice hurriedly tried to explain. "No, Your Majesty. It's just that all these things were gifts from Her Majesty the Queen." Hearing this, Brother was furious. "This woman is insufferable. We should have finished her off back then." With that, Brother immediately cast an anti-magic spell on Lady Nice. At last, the maids were able to smoothly remove the queen's accessories. Daddy immediately took back the crown. "This crown has been handed down through the royal family to each successive queen, and you actually dared to wear it on your head so casually. And that gown you're wearing is the very dress the queen wore at her wedding. You say she gave these to you. Do you think that sounds remotely reasonable?" Unexpectedly, upon hearing this, Lady Nice suddenly grew agitated. "But Your Majesty, Her Majesty the Queen personally entrusted me with taking good care of the 2 children. Now that she's gone, you should be making me queen instead." The girl was almost driven mad with anger when she heard this. Her mother had treated her so well, yet this woman only ever wanted to take her mother's place. Just then, a red system pop-up suddenly appeared. Item, X-ray eyes, has produced a side effect. While using X-ray eyes to monitor a specific location within 300 meters for 5 minutes, random side effects such as dry eye, rhinitis, etc. may occur. The next second, the girl's eyes started tearing up uncontrollably. It seemed she had triggered the dry eye side effect. Since there was no eye drops here, the girl could only keep rubbing her eyes nonstop. But in the eyes of everyone else, this scene turned into a huge misunderstanding. First, Mirinda suddenly felt a sharp pang of conscience. After all, the girl had ended up like this all because of her aunt. Then Daddy and Brother rushed over to the girl's side and began frantically comforting her. In the end, all the maid's sisters glared viciously at Lady Nice. Lady Nice was startled by the looks they gave her. Then Mirinda suddenly dropped to her knees with a thud. "Your Majesty, please allow me to be punished together with my aunt. For the past 4 years, her aunt had been freely using Her Majesty the Queen's belongings. She had even transferred the Queen's palace budget and valuables into her own name. You only need to check the assets under my name because my aunt used the names of other relatives." Hearing this, the girl fell into thoughtful silence. In fact, she had known all this long ago. Back when she first gained the ability to hear Mirinda's inner voice, she had already sent the head attendant to gather evidence. Seeing the evidence that the head attendant had handed over right on cue, Daddy was confused. "So you knew about this long ago?" When the head attendant heard this, he hurriedly explained, "Not at all, Your Majesty. It was Her Highness the Princess who found Lady Nice's clothes overly luxurious and grew suspicious. Only then did she order me to investigate. I am truly ashamed that we discovered this so late." Mirinda was moved to tears when she heard this. As expected of Her Highness the Princess, "You had noticed long ago. You were just waiting for me to come forward and confess on my own, weren't you? I really have no face to see you." Daddy also gave high praise to the girl's intelligence and wisdom, which made the girl smug for quite a while. Then Daddy ordered people to drag Lady Nice out to be executed and to confiscate all assets under her name. Lady Nice was so terrified that she kept begging for mercy. Just when the girl thought everything was finally about to end, the system suddenly sent a new quest. It actually wanted the girl to save Lady Nice. Did this woman still have some use in the future? Although it was troublesome not to be able to eliminate the problem at the root, it probably wouldn't end well if she went against the system's quest. On top of that, seeing that she still hadn't responded, the system immediately stated that this sudden quest came with intermediate compensation. This finally shook the girl's resolve. She could only pretend to be troubled by her conscience and beg Daddy not to kill Lady Nice. And as a doting father obsessed with his daughter, Daddy naturally couldn't bear to refuse the girl's request. Lady Nice never expected the girl to suddenly plead on her behalf, but thinking about it more closely, it actually made sense. After all, the girl was still so young. She must see her as a kind of mother figure. Only when she caught sight of the girl's cold smile did she realize she had been played. She was so furious that she kept loudly cursing the girl as a little devil. Hearing this, Brother wished he could cut her down on the spot, but the girl had already interceded for her. Even so, Daddy still decided to give her a proper lesson. After Lady Nice was dragged away, it was time to deal with Mirinda. Although she was an accomplice, she had voluntarily confessed for the girl's sake and produced the evidence. So the girl decided to grant her a special pardon. However, Mirinda would no longer be allowed to remain in the palace. Mirinda never expected the girl to treat her so kindly. She thanked her profusely on the spot. Then she resolutely left the palace. Seeing that the girl could be so kind-hearted, the maid sisters couldn't help but have tears in their eyes as well. But how could someone this gentle possibly survive in such a treacherous world? The girl, however, felt deeply embarrassed by this. Right now, she just felt very tired. In the blink of an eye, the girl was almost 7 years old. One day, she dreamed of past memories about the Demon King. Back then, when he was still in human form, he had once confessed his love to her with deep feeling. The girl was furious when she heard that confession. She felt that saying such things now sounded just like last words. The Demon King was both amused and helpless when he heard that, and immediately said, "Then I'll wait until after we capture the Demon King to confess again." In truth, at that time he really had been looking forward to a beautiful future for the two of them. He just never imagined it would ultimately turn into such a tragedy. Thinking of this, the girl jolted awake. Right after that, she received a strange quest issued by the system. The completion condition was to eliminate a traitor. Could the traitor this time also be the Demon King? If so, she would never let him off so easily again. Because she hadn't slept well, the girl came to the table yawning. And because she kept spacing out while eating, Daddy was worried sick. But since the girl insisted she was fine, Daddy could only let it go. He changed the subject to the girl's upcoming 7th birthday. Daddy wanted to give the girl a castle named after her. Brother wanted to inlay that castle all over with gold. Hearing this, the girl was exasperated. Honestly, are this father and son pair completely out of their minds? Even though the two of them had done many similar things in the past, why did they have to inlay precious gold into a castle? Soon after, the girl understood why her brother could be so lavish. It turned out that as the Empire's only prince, he not only owned 3 gold mines, but also several silver mines. And previously, Achilles' gold mine had also been reassigned under brother's name. So in fact, brother owned 4 gold mines. This instantly made the girl wildly excited. She was especially thrilled to hear Daddy say that after her 7th birthday, she would also have a gold mine of her own. This made her even more excited. She wished she could grow up right away. Brother seemed to see right through her thoughts. He immediately said that as long as the girl was willing to give him a kiss on the cheek, he would give her one of his gold mines. The girl was utterly grossed out by how childish he was being. She never expected Daddy to refuse to be outdone either. Seeing these two idiots looking at her with such hopeful faces, the girl was at a loss for words. However, rather than taking things from her own family, she much preferred seizing things from her enemies, especially from Grand Duke Belen's family. Just as the girl was immersed in her beautiful fantasies, Daddy and brother suddenly seized an opportunity and attacked her from both sides. The two of them had actually learned how to launch sneak attacks. It was simply unforgivable. A few days later, the Principality of Nazca submitted a request to visit the Empire. The Principality of Nazca was one of the few families that did not need to rely on solar mana to survive. They had even gone so far as to revere the Black Dragon as their ancestor in order to avoid the sun. In the end, this evolved into the present-day Nazca family, which bore the blood of the Black Dragon. However, because their principality had always been closed off, Daddy found it a bit strange that they suddenly requested a visit. But then he thought that perhaps they had run into some sort of trouble. In the end, Daddy still agreed to their request. Unexpectedly, the noble Nazca family arrived carrying a crystal coffin, and lying inside the crystal coffin was none other than their principality's sole heir. Everyone was shocked when they saw this display. How could the proud heir of a principality be lying in a crystal coffin? When the girl clearly saw heir's face, her expression instantly darkened. In her previous life, the girl had been the undisputed strongest S-rank hunter. There were 3 other people whose strength rivaled hers. They were her brother, the Saint, and the Demon King. And now this boy lying in the crystal coffin actually had the exact same face as the Demon King. What on earth was going on? Was this reincarnation, or just a coincidence? Suddenly, a hand reached over and touched her forehead. "Little sister, are you feeling unwell somewhere? You don't have a fever." It turned out her brother was worried about her. Daddy also wore a worried look. "Sweetheart, you look like you've been badly frightened." Seeing this, the girl hurriedly shook her head to say she was fine. On the other side, an elder of the Nazca Principality had already fallen to his knees with a loud thud. "Please, you must help us. We beg you to purify the curse that binds Lord Heir." Very soon, News of heir spread throughout the entire empire. Even the young ladies' tea parties among the nobility were abuzz discussing this matter. Rumor had it that the heir of the Principality of Nazca had been cursed. Now his life was being sustained only by the crystal coffin made of mana stones, and their visit to the empire was to seek a way to purify the curse. The Grand Duke's daughter immediately began explaining to everyone, "In our empire, all mana comes from the sun. Most people have fire or light attributes, and purification attribute mana is extremely rare. Not even the king, prince, or princess possess it." At this point, the Grand Duke's daughter suddenly told Ruth beside her to put away the parasol. The moment Ruth heard this, she quickly folded up the parasol, afraid that even a second's delay would anger the Grand Duke's daughter. That woman's temperament was truly unpredictable. At the last tea party, just because someone said that once the princess grew up she would replace her in the social circle, she burned that young lady's hand with magic. She even drenched the young lady from head to toe with a flower vase. In the end, she forced that young lady to apologize publicly. So Ruth didn't dare defy her in the slightest. At that moment, the Grand Duke's daughter suddenly ordered Ruth to lift her skirt and show her legs. At first, faced with such a humiliating order, Ruth clutched her skirt and did not move for a long time. It was only when the Grand Duke's daughter began to grow impatient that Ruth finally lifted her skirt with trembling hands. The next second, Ruth's legs, which looked as though they were made of stone, were exposed to everyone. And as soon as they saw those legs, people began pointing and whispering about Ruth. In truth, Ruth had merely been afflicted by a petrification curse in the past. The Grand Duke's daughter then cast magic on Ruth's legs. Miraculously, the moment the magic fell, the petrification curse on Ruth's legs seemed to faintly recede. This immediately excited everyone present. Could it be that the Grand Duke's daughter possessed the legendarily rare purification mana? It looked like the Grand Duke's daughter was about to become a great benefactor of the Principality of Nazca. Meanwhile, taking advantage of the fact that no one was around, the girl secretly slipped off to where the crystal coffin was being kept. She saw the boy lying there quietly asleep inside the crystal coffin. She couldn't help grumbling. It's not like he's some sleeping beauty. But that aside, she'd heard that the boy was a descendant of the Black Dragon. As expected of that man's reincarnation, he truly had an inexplicable connection with black dragons. The girl then used her skill on the boy. However, the system could only recognize his name. All the other information returned as errors. But that information was enough for the girl to confirm that the boy was indeed the Demon King Reborn. With this in mind, she leaned over the crystal coffin and carefully studied the boy's face again, muttering that she did not want to repeat the same mistakes. She then prepared to carry out the "Eliminate the Traitor" quest. In the next second, an icicle formed in the girl's hand. She gripped the icicle tightly, about to stab it toward the boy. Killing him now, when he was completely defenseless, should have been the easiest thing in the world. And in her previous life, it was precisely because she had slain the Demon King without hesitation that she was granted this life and reunion with her family. Now, as long as she dealt with the Demon King once more, she could secure peace in this life. But at the very instant she was about to strike, she suddenly hesitated. She found that she could no longer bring herself to act decisively against the Demon King. Unable to accept this, the girl fled from the crystal coffin in a panic. And just as she left, air inside the crystal coffin slowly opened his golden eyes. He stared blankly at the girl's departing back. Then he shut his eyes in pain and murmured, "Why, Senna?" Because she had failed to eliminate the Demon King, the girl suffered from insomnia that night. So when she appeared at the breakfast table the next day with heavy dark circles under her eyes, Daddy and brother were both shocked. Daddy assumed the girl had been annoyed by the people from the Principality of Nazca and immediately started shouting about driving them away, while the girl just felt they were making a fuss over nothing. She simply stretched lazily and said in a flat tone, "I feel so tired. I really wish someone would hold me all day today." Daddy and brother instantly rushed to fight over who got to hug her when they heard this. Seeing her family showering her with such boundless affection, the girl finally showed a long-lost smile. In any case, the Demon King had not affected her daily life yet, so she might as well spare his life for now. If he dared cause trouble in the future, she would definitely be the first to run over and kill him. With that thought, the girl spread her arms toward Daddy and brother. "Then hurry up and come hug me." In the afternoon, Aunt Fiona came to visit with her son. Seeing that soft, squishy little dumpling, the girl's heart nearly melted from the cuteness. The maid sisters, seeing this world-class scene, couldn't help but shed tears of excitement as well. They had never imagined they would live to see two divine beings of cuteness together. Aunt Fiona was so overwhelmed by the two little ones' adorableness that she almost fainted. Then Auntie took out her specialty pastries and began treating the girl and her brother. After just one bite, the girl felt that Auntie's skills were absolutely amazing. Her praise made Auntie beam with joy, Raising a daughter really did feel completely different from raising a son. Watching the two of them, Brother was utterly exasperated. So, Auntie, are desserts your main reason for visiting this time? Auntie's expression immediately turned serious when she heard this. Actually, I came this time because I heard some strange rumors. You should know that the Grand Duke's daughter entered high society much earlier than expected, right? Brother dismissed this without concern. So what? That woman isn't even worthy of my little sister's toenails. The nanny fully agreed with that sentiment. That was all true, but not long ago, Miss Ruth had become her maid. And the reason Miss Ruth was willing to become her maid was because the Grand Duke's daughter supposedly possessed purification mana. As everyone knew, Miss Ruth had been struck by a petrification curse when she was a child. The nanny found this utterly absurd. Royal family members with purification mana were extremely rare. The last princess in history who possessed purification mana had lived 200 years ago. Auntie said she also found it unbelievable, but everyone who attended that tea party had personally witnessed the Grand Duke's daughter slightly purify the petrification curse on Ruth. The girl held nothing but contempt for the Grand Duke's daughter's actions. Choosing this exact moment to reveal that she possessed purification mana was obviously an attempt to latch onto the Principality of Nazca. Since that was the case, they might as well play along and use the chance to greatly amplify the situation. Seeing how quick-witted and decisive the girl was, Auntie immediately grabbed her and smothered her with affectionate cuddles again. The girl almost couldn't breathe from how tightly Auntie was hugging her. Auntie's little son also grinned widely, insisting on feeding the girl strawberries. The girl found him so adorable that she simply couldn't refuse. She immediately picked up one of her own cherries to give in return. The little one happily munched on the cherry the girl handed him. The four of them spent a delightful afternoon tea together. On the other side, the Grand Duke's daughter ran home in excitement to show off her treasure to her parents. Mother, father, I received a letter of plea from the Principality of Nazca. The Grand Duke and his wife were thrilled when they saw the letter. After all, unless you were on the king's level, you would absolutely never receive such a letter. As expected, their precious daughter was truly amazing. News that the Grand Duke's daughter had received a plea for help from the Principality of Nazca spread like wildfire. This made all the young ladies of noble houses look at her in a new light. After all, even the prince and princess hadn't received such a plea letter because their mana wasn't sufficient. On top of that, the Grand Duke's daughter had won Miss Ruth's loyalty. With this, even if the Grand Duke's son had been driven out of the palace, the Grand Ducal family had nothing to worry about. And the Grand Duke's daughter herself also believed that the throne would sooner or later be hers. However, the fact that she would soon help purify the curse on the heir of the Principality of Nazca made Ruth very uneasy. So that night Ruth went to the Grand Duke's daughter to look for confirmation. The Grand Duke's daughter was extremely impatient when she heard this. Of course I'm going to agree to help. After all, they're desperately begging for my aid. Ruth grew even more panicked at this and dropped to her knees with a thud. My lady, please purify my curse a bit more as well. The Grand Duke's daughter instantly felt displeased when she heard this. What? Are you afraid that once I use my purification power on the Principality of Nazca, I'll abandon you? Ruth spoke in a trembling voice. It's not that, it's just that I'm in so much pain. No sooner had she said this than the Grand Duke's daughter kicked her to the ground. Then you're far too selfish, wanting to monopolize such precious purification power. I don't like people who are that selfish. If you keep this up, I can't guarantee you'll remain my maid. Ruth watched the Grand Duke's daughters departing back and silently shed tears. She knew that now, the only way to lessen the pain of the curse was to rely on the Grand Duke's daughter. But just to keep her under control, the Grand Duke's daughter likely would never completely purify her curse for the rest of her life. What Ruth didn't know was that this scene of her being bullied had been clearly seen through the girl's X-ray eyes. Seeing Ruth's face, which was identical to Sister Yuane's, the girl was utterly stunned. As the only S-rank hunter with a dual class in her previous life, Sister Yuane had played a crucial role in the war against the Demon King. She had also looked after her and her brother quite a lot. The weapons Sister Yuane had forged in their previous life had saved her and her brother at critical moments time and time again. So the girl had always looked forward to reuniting with Sister Yuane in this life. But she never expected that arrogant Grand Duke's daughter to dare bully her like that. The girl was almost driven to death by anger. Just then, the system issued a new quest: ruin the Grand Duke's daughter's reputation, and purify the curse on the heir of the Principality of Nazca. The girl knew that the Grand Duke's daughter intended to use her purification power to cement her position. But the thought of that guy waking up because of it really annoyed her. Suddenly, it seemed the girl had thought of something. She rummaged through her pile of items and pulled out a bottle of D-rank curse-purifying potion. Seeing this, she immediately came up with a good idea. She happily went off to look for Daddy. The next day, just as expected, the Grand Duke's daughter accepted the Principality of Nazca's request. And today, the king would personally arrange a meeting between her and the people of Nazca. The Grand Duke's daughter was, of course, overjoyed at this. After all, this meant that even the king acknowledged her healing powers. She then changed into a sumptuous gown and entered the palace, and everyone was stunned when they saw her outfit. No one expected Miss Ruth to have gifted her this custom haute couture dress, and the ruby crown on the Grand Duke's daughter's head was even Ruth's family heirloom. It seemed Miss Ruth's entire family had completely submitted to the Grand Duke's daughter. At this moment, the Grand Duke's daughter finally laid eyes on the Demon King lying in the crystal coffin. Seeing that handsome face, the Grand Duke's daughter couldn't help but imagine a romantic love story in her mind. Just thinking that the Demon King and Ruth would both be under her heel in the future, and that even the throne would be in her pocket, made her grin almost to the back of her ears. Just then, Daddy and the others happened to arrive. Seeing that the girl was no longer being treated like the center of attention as before made the Grand Duke's daughter even more excited. To her, this meant she would soon be able to completely replace the girl's position. With the Grand Duke's daughter about to purify the curse on the heir of Nazca in front of everyone, even the nobles who had always supported the girl began to waver. But strangely, the people of the Principality of Nazca still felt more favorably toward the girl than toward the Grand Duke's daughter. This made the elders suddenly realize something. From the looks of it, it might be that the prince's emotions were affecting them. As the range of that influence slowly spread, the nobles who had just been wavering once again showed their fondness for the girl. This made the Grand Duke's daughter so angry that she bit her lip hard. At this point, Daddy called the Grand Duke's daughter over. He once again confirmed with her whether she truly possessed purification power. The Grand Duke's daughter declared with full confidence that she would definitely be able to purify the curse on the Prince of Nazca. She also made a request of Daddy. The head attendant felt that her arrogant behavior was somewhat offensive, but the Grand Duchess was utterly unconcerned. After all, her daughter was a once-in-a-century purification ability user. It was worth remembering that the last purification ability user before this had defeated 5 brothers to ascend to the throne, so she hoped her daughter would receive the treatment she deserved. At this, everyone understood the Grand Duchess's ambition. She clearly wanted to use this chance to push the Grand Duke's daughter into the position of princess. The Grand Duke's daughter, however, had yet to successfully complete the purification. So Daddy decided to let her attempt this purification as a royal ability trial. If the Grand Duke's daughter failed the trial, she would lose her right of succession to the throne. A few years ago, the Grand Duke's son, who had been soundly defeated by her brother, had his right of succession stripped in exactly this way. The Grand Duchess was immediately flustered when she heard this. But this wasn't a mana duel between members of the royal family. The girl immediately countered when she heard that. But wouldn't proving your purification ability be even more meaningful as proof than a duel between royals? In the end, this round of purification by the Grand Duke's daughter was officially recognized as a royal ability trial. If she succeeded in purifying the curse, she would become a princess without a hitch. If she failed, she would be stripped of both her right of succession and her ownership of the gold mine. And ever since the Grand Duke's son's gold mine had been reclaimed last time, the gold mine in the Grand Duke's daughter's hands was probably the Grand Ducal family's only remaining gold mine. Spurred on by her competitive streak, the Grand Duke's daughter gritted her teeth and accepted the challenge. She was absolutely determined to use this opportunity to replace the girl and drive her out of the palace. Then, at Daddy's command, the Grand Duke's daughter began purifying the Prince of Nazca. But even though she exhausted all her mana, the prince still showed no sign of waking. The Grand Duke's daughter's face gradually twisted. What she didn't know was that the prince actually wasn't under any curse at all. Rather, there seemed to be a hole inside him that absorbed mana. And mana was essentially life force. That was why he had remained in a coma all this time. Just then, the system once again began frantically urging the girl to kill the prince. It seemed that if this hidden danger were left alone, the tragedy might repeat itself. Because the prince still wasn't waking up, murmurs of doubt slowly began to spread through the crowd. With her nerves stretched to the breaking point, the Grand Duke's daughter finally snapped. She rushed up and began pounding on the crystal coffin in a frenzy. "Wake up this instant. I clearly purified you already." The people of the Principality of Nazca immediately dragged her away from the crystal coffin when they saw this. Then they unceremoniously shoved her to the ground. The Grand Duke's daughter was utterly aggrieved. She immediately called on Daddy to stand up for her. To her surprise, she was met only with the girl's merciless mockery. It was only then that the Grand Duke's daughter realized she had been tricked. She pointed at the girl and began swearing at her. Her crazed behavior scared everyone present. It turned out that the words the girl had just spoken were only audible to the Grand Duke's daughter. So now, in everyone else's eyes, she was nothing more than an unreasonable madwoman making a scene. The elder of the Principality of Nazca also concluded that the Grand Duke's daughter had deceived them. Hearing this, the Grand Duke's daughter grew frantic and hurriedly asked Miss Ruth to prove her claims. But in the very next second, Miss Ruth suddenly collapsed to the ground. The girl, alarmed, rushed forward. And the moment she touched Miss Ruth, the sunstones suddenly burst forth with a dazzling light. Shrouded in the light, the girl quickly fed Miss Ruth the purification potion. The instant Ruth swallowed it, the system prompted, Miss Ruth's petrification curse has been lifted. The girl then gave her a stamina supplement as well. Once she finished all this, the surrounding light slowly faded away. The Grand Duke's daughter stared in disbelief and demanded to know what the girl had just done. The girl merely pulled a face at her. At that moment, Miss Ruth's father, Marquis Iris, rushed over in a panic. He anxiously scooped Ruth into his arms, calling her name over and over. Seeing that familiar face, the girl fell into her memories. He was Sister Yuane's father. She had seen him once at Sister Yuane's funeral. Even though she had failed to protect Sister Yuane, that kind-hearted uncle had not blamed her. Instead, he had thanked her. She never imagined she would have the chance to meet him again in this life. This time, she absolutely would not let father and daughter be separated again. Right then, Marquis Iris also noticed his daughter's perfectly restored legs. The girl had actually managed to completely lift Ruth's curse. This meant she also possessed powerful purification abilities. Realizing this, Marquis Iris immediately bowed deeply to the girl. He declared that the Iris family would never forget this kindness. The girl was just about to tell him not to worry about it so much when the crystal coffin behind her suddenly exploded. Then, to everyone's shock, the Prince of Nazca slowly stood up. Seeing this, the Grand Duke's daughter hastily picked up her fallen crown and put it back on. Then she turned to Daddy to claim the credit. After that, she did not forget to order the people of the Principality of Nazca, who had treated her roughly before, to kneel and apologize. Just as she was basking in the joy of her supposed success, the prince suddenly stopped the elder, who was about to apologize. He announced that he wished to personally thank his benefactor. In front of everyone, he walked right past the Grand Duke's daughter. Then he knelt on one knee before the girl with a devout expression. While the girl could only stare blankly at the scene before her, the Grand Duke's daughter completely lost it. "What nonsense are you talking about? This is outrageous. Clearly the one who purified your curse was me. You must still be groggy from just waking up and got confused, right?" As she spoke, she clamped down hard on the prince's shoulders, but he slapped her hands away with force. Then the prince looked at her with a dark expression. "Even though I just woke up, I was conscious the whole time I was in a coma, so there's no way I would mistake my benefactor." As he said this, the prince gazed at the girl with deep emotion. He then reverently kissed the back of the girl's hand. The girl was left frozen on the spot. In the next second, Daddy hoisted the girl up over his shoulder. Daddy and brother then instantly went on high alert. "Sweetheart, let Daddy wipe your hand for you right now. You actually dared to kiss my little sister's hand. Believe it or not, we'll stuff you right back into that coffin." Seeing these two suddenly going crazy, the girl quickly clapped her hands. With that, the ability proof test is over. The Grand Duke's daughter failed to complete the purification, so I've won the wager. Even though she wasn't the one who woke the prince, she'd be a fool not to take advantage of the situation. Upon hearing this, everyone began praising her. The Grand Duke and his wife, on the other hand, looked ashen. The Grand Duke's daughter was so humiliated that she burst into tears. That very evening, the Grand Ducal estate was stripped bare by a large crowd. When the head attendant arrived to collect the gold mine deed from the Grand Duke's daughter on the girl's behalf, he happened to run straight into the Grand Duchess's fury. "Head attendant, you people have gone too far. It's just a gold mine deed. Did you really have to turn our house upside down?" The head attendant hurriedly waved his hands. "You misunderstand, Grand Duchess. I don't know these people at all." The Grand Duke's daughter couldn't hold back anymore when she heard that. "If you didn't bring them, then who did?" Just then, a familiar voice came from behind. "We're the ones who sent them." The newcomers turned out to be Marquis Iris and his daughter. Seeing Ruth, the Grand Duke's daughter immediately rushed forward and grabbed her hand enthusiastically. "Miss Ruth, why are you here? Are you feeling all right? What on earth is going on?" But Miss Ruth only replied coolly, "After I fainted and woke up again, my body had improved dramatically, so I came with my father, because there's something I absolutely had to say to you." The Grand Duke's daughter assumed Ruth had come to thank her. "You're far too polite, but I suppose it makes sense. After all, when you were suffering under the curse, I was the only one who reached out a helping hand." Before she could finish, Ruth savagely tore the crown from her head. Then Ruth fixed her with a cold stare and said, "Take off that dress. You're not worthy to wear it." The Grand Duke's daughter never expected Ruth to turn on her like this. In utter terror, she demanded, "What did you say?" Seeing how cowardly she looked, Ruth gave a chilly smile. "It seems you're not only vicious, you can't even understand plain speech." Humiliated, the Grand Duke's daughter shook with rage and immediately pointed at Ruth, shouting curses. "How dare you treat me like this? Right up until this very morning, you were still clinging to me, you ungrateful wretch." Ruth reacted as if she'd just heard the world's biggest joke. Your kindness? Do you mean how you use my curse as an excuse every day to order me around and humiliate me? Well, now you've received my kindness, so you're the one who should be grateful. But the Grand Duke's daughter shot back at once. I helped purify your curse. How is that not kindness? At that, Ruth immediately held up her fingers to show a tiny amount. You only purified the tiniest bit of my curse. That little favor isn't enough to buy my family's heirloom and that dress, so I'm taking them back. As for all the gifts we've given you up to now, I'll be taking those back as well. The Grand Duke's daughter exploded the moment she heard that. You already gave them to me. Anything that reaches my hands is mine. Who do you people think you are, trying to take my things? Before she could finish, the maids Ruth had brought with her grabbed the Grand Duke's daughter and dragged her away by force. The Grand Duchess sidled up to Ruth with a sycophantic smile. So then, Lady Marquis Iris, what about your support for us? Ruth gave her a faint, sidelong glance. Naturally, it will be cut off. If you have any objections, you're free to sue us. Hearing this, the Grand Duchess felt as though she had fallen into an icy abyss. On the other side, the maids had already taken the dress off the Grand Duke's daughter. The Grand Duke's daughter cursed furiously. When you need me, you wag your tail and beg, and when you don't, you mercilessly snatch everything away. Are those treasures really that important? I really did purify you too. Ruth let out a cold laugh. Then she plucked a small gem from the dress and tossed it in front of the Grand Duke's daughter. This should be enough to pay your fee, right? Though it seems this gem is still worth more than the curse you purified. Humiliated, the Grand Duke's daughter screamed at Ruth. Even if you snatch them away, they still don't suit someone like you. Ruth shot her a cool glance over her shoulder. You're right. Neither of us is suited to them. The only one truly suited to these things is a single person, and that's the little princess who's like an angel. Not long ago, people all across the country had learned the true nature of the Grand Ducal family. They were overjoyed to learn that the girl possessed purification power. The head attendant had also successfully obtained the gold mine deed for the girl. This instantly made the girl wildly excited, only for that damned system to start throwing errors again at the worst possible time, which immediately killed her mood. Seeing this, Daddy cautiously asked the girl what was wrong. When the girl saw how worried he looked, she waved her hand to say she was fine. Then she held the gold mine deed aloft and showed off with great flourish, finally dispelling Daddy and Brother's doubts. As the three of them walked hand in hand down the long corridor, the girl suddenly, and for no reason, thought of that annoying Prince of Nazca. She couldn't help letting out a small sigh. Daddy and Brother instantly snapped into high alert. They unanimously decided that the Prince of Nazca, who was disturbing the girl's peace of mind, had to be kicked out. So angry she could scream. The girl shouted at them. You two are enough already. I told you this has nothing to do with air. But her words only made Daddy and Brother's anger levels spike into the red. The girl actually remembered the Prince of Nazca's name. Now their plan to chase him out was more urgent than ever. Realizing she couldn't win against these two childish idiots in an argument, the girl could only act spoiled with them. Daddy and Brother, I want to take a walk in the garden, but my legs hurt a bit. Could you carry me? Sure enough, the moment she said this, Daddy and Brother immediately became obedient as lambs. This trick really was 100% effective. In the afternoon, Marquis Iris and his daughter took the initiative to pay a visit and express their thanks. Daddy and Brother insisted on staying by the girl's side, afraid that she would be tricked because she was too kind. The girl was exasperated by this, but thinking about how, in their previous life, Sister Yuane's family and theirs had practically been family friends, she felt it was a good opportunity to let Daddy and Brother grow closer to them. As soon as the Iris family arrived, they dropped to their knees with a thud. Your Highness the Princess, my daughter owes her life to your grace. We are deeply grateful, but please, we still beg you to punish me, the sinner who violated the covenant. The girl had no idea what he was talking about and couldn't help looking over at Daddy. It was said that the first king had once made a covenant with the founding families who were his meritorious retainers. They agreed that no one would interfere in succession disputes. In return, the first king entrusted 10 gold mines and granaries to the ancestor of the Iris family. This was to prevent succession struggles from losing their fairness. For generations, the Iris family had faithfully upheld this. But not long ago, they had broken the covenant. Hearing this, Marquis Iris began banging his head on the ground over and over. It was all because I was desperate to save my daughter. I lost my senses. Everything is my fault. Ruth also began to cry beside him. No, it's all my fault. Father only did that to cure my curse. Watching the father and daughter grovel and beg, the girl found herself at a loss. To show his sincerity, Marquis Iris offered up the family heirloom to the girl. The girl never expected he would present such a precious treasure solely to her. Daddy and Brother even looked deeply gratified. Yet at this crucial moment, that damned system was of no help at all. Just when the girl was panicking, unsure what to do, Daddy suddenly spoke up. In that case, as you wish, We'll confiscate your title and estate and give them to the princess." Seeing things about to go south, the girl hurriedly burst into noisy, theatrical sobs. Daddy and brother were so startled that they immediately rushed to her side, but she only said she was just too moved. For a moment, she seemed to see the shadows of Daddy and brother in the deeply loving Marquis Iris. Seeing this, Daddy and brother hastened to assure her that no matter what happened, they would always be her solid backing. Hearing this, the girl wrapped her arms tightly around all three of them at once, ignoring everyone else as she indulged in her emotions. Marquis Iris and his daughter were left completely bewildered. After things had settled down again, Daddy pronounced the final punishment for the Iris family. "In any case, the fact that you broke the covenant is unchangeable. But in light of how strongly you later supported the princess, I will give the princess special authority to decide your punishment." The girl simply smiled and reached her hand out to Ruth. "Then from now on, let's be friends." Ruth never imagined the girl would forgive them so easily. She immediately declared that she was willing to become the girl's maid and serve her for life. Daddy and brother were instantly eaten up with jealousy. They hadn't expected yet another person to show up and fight them for the girl. That night, the girls stared thoughtfully at the system that kept throwing errors. Lately, it couldn't even display the daily quests properly. Thinking back, every quest the system issued revolved around things happening in her real life. It even handed her skills and equipment that weren't originally hers. Some were even items the Demon King had possessed in their previous life. These bizarre rewards had always bothered her. They had kept her from sleeping well for the past few nights. Fortunately, Daddy suddenly suggested going on an outing. Only then was she finally able to forget all that for a while and relax. At least after saving Ruth, she had received a skill upgrade ticket. She immediately used it to upgrade the ability to see other people's mana. Although it required holding hands and had a time limit, which was troublesome, it was still a very practical ability. The girl suddenly noticed the huge boulder blocking the road ahead of the carriage. In the next second, air descended slowly from the boulder along a set of steps. It turned out the boulder had been put there by the people of the Principality of Nazca, and he had done this because Daddy had suddenly issued him an order to leave. Thinking about how Daddy and brother had deceived her, the girl threw down a harsh line. She was very disappointed in them. Then she flew off in Air's direction. The moment Air saw her, he dropped to one knee to thank her for saving his life. He felt it would be far too rude to leave without thanking her in person. To his surprise, the girl answered by landing a solid punch on him. Back in her previous life, she had sworn that if she ever saw that bastard Demon King again, she'd beat the living daylights out of him. And today she finally got her wish. Though Air was getting pounded, he only pleaded with her miserably for mercy. "Do you feel better now? But please don't keep going, or you really might beat me to death." The girl was speechless at how slippery he was acting. Then she suddenly smiled and held her hand out to him. "Then let's give each other a proper greeting." The moment Air took her hand, the girl's lips curved into a sly smile. Now she could finally probe his mana. What she didn't expect was that she not only failed to sense Air's mana, she also discovered a strange black hole in his heart. Just as she was puzzling over this phenomenon, Air suddenly collapsed uncontrollably into her arms. Feeling his life force draining away at high speed, the girl panicked. Normally, mana is produced by the heart and brain. Once one of these is damaged, serious problems occur throughout the body. And with Air's heart damaged as it was now, he was clearly about to kick the bucket. Seeing his life hanging by a thread, the girl had no choice but to grit her teeth and use the precious skill, but tap of encouragement and growth. The instant she smacked him, Air's condition quickly began to improve. The girl brought the unconscious Air back to the Principality of Nazca, and she had the elder pass a message to Air. "I've saved him twice. His life belongs to me." Just then, Air happened to wake up. He struggled to shout after the girl's departing figure. "I'm willing to wager everything I have to repay this life-saving grace." The girl hadn't expected this guy to actually use oath magic to swear, and the him who had always spoken to her in honorifics used plain speech for the first time. "He's really becoming more and more like the Demon King from my previous life." When the girl returned to the surface again, her father and brother rushed over anxiously, fussing over her. But the girl hadn't forgotten how the two of them had tricked her, so she didn't give those two guys a pleasant face. She happily took Sister Ruth's hand and went back to the Imperial Palace together. On the other side, when the Grand Duke returned home and saw his listless daughter, his face was full of disgust. "Who are you putting on that foul expression for? As long as you can prove that your solar magic is stronger than the princesses and the princes, our family still has a chance to turn the tables. There's a way right now to increase your magic power. Are you willing to try it?" Hearing this, the Grand Duke's daughter was immediately moved and agreed to her father on the spot, not realizing this would become the beginning of her nightmare. 3 more days passed after that, and on this day the girl was playing with Ruth in the garden. She asked Ruth if she had any hobbies or interests, but because Ruth had been cursed before, she had no mind to develop any hobbies at all. Fortunately, now that she had regained her health, she finally had time to cultivate some properly. The maid proudly showed her the portraits she had drawn of the girl from childhood to now. She also said that if Ruth wanted to learn, she would spare no effort to help. Ruth was taken aback by her enthusiasm. Thank you so much, really. But I think we have to deal with that father and son pair first. Hearing Ruth mention them, the father and brother immediately jumped out all aggrieved. Baby, you haven't paid any attention to us for 3 days. These 3 days we haven't been able to eat or sleep. The girls stared helplessly at the father and son pair, who looked like resentful wives. Then can you guarantee that you'll never do something like that again? Hearing that the girl was finally willing to relent, the father and son immediately promised in unison that they'd never do it again. So the girl reluctantly forgave the two of them. The delighted father and son immediately gave the girl a big, loving hug. Seeing this, the girls speechlessly pointed at the sunstone above the castle. I mean, how happy are you two that you even made the sunstone light up? But the father and son both insisted it had nothing to do with them. So, why exactly had the sunstone suddenly begun to shine? Elsewhere, inside a clothing shop on the street, the gown the Grand Duke's daughter had worn was hanging there in plain view. It turned out Ruth had fooled the Grand Duke's daughter back then. This was not a dress specially tailored for the Grand Duke's daughter. It was a defective item that had been sitting unsold for 2 years. Just as the noble ladies were excitedly gossiping together, they happened to be overheard by the Grand Duke's daughter. Clear as day. The moment she thought about how the dress she wore was nothing more than a sample piece, she couldn't help clenching her fists. Then, thinking of the gown Ruth had specially custom-made for the girl, her anger instantly shot through the roof. Why does everyone only like that bratty girl? At that moment, the Grand Duke's daughter's magic suddenly went berserk. She felt a piercing pain all over her body. The more she thought about the torment she had suffered these past few days, the less she could control herself. Everyone was so frightened by her appearance that they fled in all directions. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the roof. The next second, the girl appeared right on top of the Grand Duke's daughter. Carrot Head, what on earth are you doing? As a result, the moment the Grand Duke's daughter saw the girl, her emotions completely spiraled out of control. Then she launched a wild barrage of attacks at the girl. The girl could tell something was wrong with her condition, and her magic also looked very off. So, the girl simply knocked her down with one punch. The next second, the Grand Duke's daughter clutched her face and kept crying out in pain. Seeing this, the Grand Duke immediately ordered people to take his daughter back to the mansion. Then he turned to the girl and apologized. I'm sorry, Your Highness. My daughter temporarily lost her sanity under the blow of failing the ability proof. Before the girl could speak, her father and brother had already rushed over, seething with killing intent. How dare you attack my daughter? Even if you and your daughter both die, it still wouldn't be enough to atone. Seeing this, the girl quickly signaled to her father to calm down, since there were still other people around. Still, this was exactly how a normal father ought to react. The Grand Duke had clearly looked guilty just now. It seemed that the Grand Duke's daughter ending up like this had everything to do with him. Suddenly, the Grand Duke began to denounce things in front of everyone. Just what did my poor daughter do wrong? There has always been an unwritten rule among the royal family that you can compete for the right of succession. If that counts as treason, then shouldn't the person who killed 5 relatives to take the throne be executed 5 times? The girl's father knew he was insinuating him and immediately spoke coldly. You looked down on me so much back then. You never thought I would eventually ascend the throne, did you? Listening to your filthy words at that time, I couldn't even be bothered to harm you. Do you know why? Because you're not even worth the trouble of killing. The father's words made the Grand Duke tremble all over with rage. Then the father ordered the arrest of the Grand Duke and his daughter. The Grand Duke immediately objected in displeasure. Since everyone witnessed the fight between the girl and my daughter, that means the ability proof has already begun. That previous one was merely over the ownership of the gold mine. This time is truly over the right of succession. As members of the royal family, you are obliged to accept an ability-proof challenge. Hearing this, the faces of the girl's father and brother instantly turned very grim. But the girl accepted the challenge without the slightest hesitation. She just looked with disgust at the half-dead Grand Duke's daughter lying on the ground. If they continued the ability-proof now, wouldn't she just win while the other side was flat on her back? The Grand Duke hurriedly explained, my daughter has just reawakened her magic. She only fainted temporarily because her magic is unstable. As soon as the girl heard this, she flew to the Grand Duke's daughter's side and examined her. After confirming it was true, she revealed a cold smile. Then we'll wait until your daughter has recovered before continuing the ability proof, but on the condition that she must be taken care of by me personally.